Good morning and welcome to the Morning Connection, coming to you live from the Ligony Club in Kingston, Jamaica. Good morning, Pastor Percival.
Morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing today?
We're fine. And good morning to those who have joined us online and on air. Good morning to the crew back at the studio where you can't see the sunshine. You can tell I'm seeing the sunshine. I'm
And you
almost
must-
singing.
Somebody say it's like a child growing up. It's a ba. You don't.
Yes,
get
I
it.
know.
You know, ba ba ba.
No, we didn't say bar, but that might have been what was going on in Spanish Town. Down
it
in
does?
St. Anne, we were just sticking out our tongue and waggling our fingers
Oh, but you would stick out
and
the tongue.
skipping around.
You don't get no one.
But we are very happy to be outdoors. It seemed so dark this morning because the season is shifting a bit.
Yeah, it's beginning to change.
You
yeah.
know, our seasons shift very subtly. You have to be really watchful to notice it. It seemed like darker at 5:30 than it was a month or so ago when you felt like it was the middle of the day coming down. But it's a beautiful morning, nice and cool, a very light wind. Here we still have some of the decorations from Independence. They're beginning to flag a little bit, but the colors of the flag, pun intended. But still here, still very festive looking. And yesterday, as we celebrated the 135th anniversary of the birth of our first national hero, we still want to talk a little bit more about it. In particular, Pastor Percival, if you have not noticed, there's a front page picture today. I don't think it's because we made such a noise about it yesterday. I think it's because of the very interesting suggestion that Mr. Goulding, son of Bruce,
I'm still in it.
he is the president of the Universal Negro Improvement Association.
I thought, but I had interactions with him. My brother was a Gavi. I remember.
Yeah,
He was very much
Yeah.
in that forum and said that, oh, okay, Mr. Golden is still alive. More power to you.
What do you mean still
Stephen
alive?
Goulding.
That young picnic.
I never thought, I never heard anything about him for
Watch
a very long time. I know.
Watch the young man.
No man. Let me explain what I mean by
yes.
that. He's not been in the media
Right.
for a very, very long time. There was a point that everything
Was all about.
Stephen Goulding.
Yeah.
And then in the last years, you know, hear anything I know. Yeah, because he should be somebody who should be pushing the whole thing of what Garvey meant, and him should have talked to him father. I said, talk to the powers that be in the thing. I said, good God, man. He pushed Garvey's in school, so it'd be good to talk to him at some point in time in terms of what is strategically happening with UNIP and the.
Well, passed by their celebrations today. They are all week.
There. He's been at.
I did see him pass through on the evening of the meet and greet on Monday evening.
Okay.
He and the lovely Empress.
Yes, his Empress. Yes.
Yes, were present. So, well, it surprised me to know that the UNIA was still active.
That's
but
what
as
I'm
you
talking
just
about.
described, it really hasn't been active.
It hasn't
in recent times. Yes, and he did pass through the meet and greet, and I literally mean pass through. They came in, they sat down for about 10, 15 minutes.
And they're gone.
And they were off again. Perhaps there was some other Garvey-related celebration.
You think so?
No, I don't, but I'm being charitable.
You've been very
I'm being charitable
gracious this morning.
Yes, when I remember, may have been someone said to us that we would likely see him at the meet and greet because he and Empress were. I'm trying to remember who said it to us because, of course, I'm not an accredited Garveyite. Are you an accredited Garveyite?
No.
What does it mean to be a Garveyite? Because I even put a Garveyite. That's what he's called in the headline. Imposed tariffs on visitors from former colonial powers. Garveyite, Goulding urges. What you need to be a Garveyite? You need to be a member of the UNIA?
Probably a paid up member of
the UNIA.
But a lot of us are Garveyites in our hearts, and so we push the the principles of what he
Yes,
he
because
spoke
Garvey
about.
doesn't have a monopoly on Pan-Africanism
Africanism. He's
or
probably the person
on
who spurred it.
liberation of self or... You know, it's interesting that there is that sentiment in many, many places that if you promote something passionately, it becomes yours.
Okay.
You know, so some of these ideas that are as old as time, because someone was so faithful in their advocacy, it attracts the name of the individual. And so I may have the same sentiments and I'll be out there talking them up, and someone would just immediately label you as a whatever. I
That happens
certainly...
all the time. That
Yes.
happens all the time.
When I first started on this program, I don't remember what I said that earned me, someone responded by calling me a PNP activist.
Yeah.
And in so doing, one, discredit my own independence and voice, and immediately put you in a box from which you may struggle to escape if you're not very clever and careful. So
Because let me tell you,
Yeah.
labels are easy. You label that, you stay there, because then you can put people in boxes. When you seek to come outside of the box, that is the problem for a lot of people, because you stay. That's a label. So my expectation is that all of the time, that's
you're gonna perform in accordance
yeah,
with the label.
like you're on the stage and you're the monkey and you pull the string, and that monkey performs in that way.
You know, I feel like you just mix some metaphors right there.
It's true.
Because usually the puppet,
Yeah.
unless you're a monkey puppet.
You're a monkey puppet. You pull the string, so you're a monkey instead. Yeah, but it's true. Pull the strings.
Yeah, we are very quick to slap labels onto something, and it's lazy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it is, because it means that you don't have to do the intellectual exercise. Even for us as people generally, it's much easier to label people versus, okay, let me deal with the ideas that are emanating from that person. Don't go after the person, because if you are labeled that way, it is easier to deal with. And even for us as believers, those of us who stay claim to a certain way of belief, it's easy to handle that. And I guess labels are an easier way to deal with issues, you know. So when somebody you have labeled begin to act in a different manner, it creates problems for you, because you can say, oops.
So labels are convenient, but it's really a very lazy way, I think, of engaging with the world, because when you ascribe a label to someone, it means you deny yourself the opportunity to get to know them as they really are. And in a world of hybrids, I'm definitely a hybrid.
You mean the hybrid car, electric and gas at the same time?
No, I'm not admitting to being gas.
You're not full of gas.
No.
You're electric.
I'm all electrical.
You're all electrical.
But I mean, you know, when you get to know persons, you see there are a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit, and there are more hybrids around than there are persons true to type. So we speak against the lazy business of just slapping a label on an individual and moving on. They're convenient for academic study, maybe, but they're certainly not a convenient way of engaging with the world. Did you just label me, Mr. Producer?
No, he just simply said it's time for a station break. So we'll be right back after the 6:30 station break.
Excellent.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935.
Good morning and welcome back. Had the most interesting conversation with my co-host in the interim. Did not understand all of the politics behind the UNIA and so on and so forth. I did not know that Percy's big brother was a contender for the presidency of the UNIA sometime back in the... When would that have been, Percy?
In the 90s, early 2000s.
Are you ashamed of it? Or you're
No. I'm just remembering.
Reflecting.
Because my brother, as I remember him always, Sly Anota, that was the name he went by in terms of his writings. Trying to find some of his writings. Was very much a Garveyite for a long time, as long as I can recall. That is who he was. So, yeah. And so there are a lot of them who have worked to push the idea of Garveyism, and true, because he was also a Rasta man. And you know, the kind of pushback that you'd get in regards to that. Yeah, so Yeah.
But I love it that you recall that he was a contender for the presidency of the association against none other than Mr. Goulding himself, who continues to be president. I would love to know what the Universal Negro Improvement Association is doing and what it has been doing since the, what did you say, 90s?
And early 2000, because it happened when Stevens.
So you mean Stephen has been president for 22 years?
I don't know. I can't recall, but I remember the ascendancy when Stevens' dad was
Prime Minister.
During those times.
Yes, yes. It's kind of hard to go up against the Prime Minister's son.
No, but then, and the government then put some monies into fixing up UNIP,
the head office
down on King Street. Yeah, so where it is at. So those who in the know, So there's, but so it is. But I still believe, I wouldn't call it Garveyism. I would say the principles that he espoused in terms of us and what we can do. He was way ahead of his time, Garvey, in terms of some of the things that he spoke about. Even if you look at the party, which was founded before the PNP and the JLP, if you do that quick history. When you look at what he spoke about, you know, it's coming like, all right, a lot of the principles that Garvey spoke about on his political platform is what was adopted in part and principle by those who followed on in regards to it.
I am actually surprised that you said Garvey's thoughts and philosophies were ahead of its time, because of, you know, who we are and how we speak. And Garvey was coming right out of the Bible. So his thoughts and philosophies were not ahead of his time. Maybe the only thing interesting is that he was a black man saying those things.
True.
Yeah, because you know, he's not asking. He wasn't asking for anything different from what you and I are asking for today, and which we claim as our natural entitlement. That's why I was commenting on this. This tendency we have to apply labels and move on without really recognizing that some of these things that you're labeling, that label that you put on it, it had another label before, if I want to put it that way. Garvey has been described as having a philosophy and advocating for an organization which had as at its foundation a rich religious component, which he blended with
Very strong. Very
political
strong.
and economic.
Yeah, a good mix, a
Yes.
good understanding
Just as we do.
of what is needed.
Just as we do.
So I salute him. As I said, I was exposed to it long time. So I remember in high school. I remember I told you the story when I was in primary school.
You and the nun?
Me and the nun. Yeah.
That's my favorite Percy story.
And I can't forget that.
Say again. What you not do for no white woman?
Nah, no cheer for no white woman.
Yes, that can be the motto of our political party.
That's joking, but
Hey, no man,
your consciousness.
What? Your young heart saw something that you were responding to.
Yeah.
I love it. It is said here that Garvey's declaration of the rights of the Negro peoples of the world was accompanied by a Bible. He says, the Bible was the holy writ for our Negro race. We pray, as we pray to Almighty God to save us through his holy words, so shall we with confidence in ourselves follow the sentiment of the Declaration of Rights and carve our way to liberty.
Yeah.
We say we say it differently, but it's the same way.
No, but
The sword of the spirit in your hand as you march.
As we reflect on Garvey and his just impact in terms of what he just did, what he said. Do you know other persons in other countries have adopted the principle? I was listening to not last night, the night before. Miguel Lauren was just talking about the fact that people have used those same principles to push their process. Was talking about the guy in Vietnam and some other people.
Yes,
you know. So
Yeah.
I found it
Interesting.
very interesting and very informative.
Yes. Well, as I said, the principles are as old as time. They're drawn from the Bible. They're drawn from a proper understanding of the original design and the mandate which was given to man, which is why it's called mandate.
Yes.
Oh dear. A date with man. God made a date with man. But
He had a date with man, but we broke it.
we broke it, yes. And since then, loving God that he is, he has just worked tirelessly to
make us-
mend it and to bring
Well,
us
he
back
did.
in alignment.
To the person. of Christ, yeah.
Yeah, so it stands to reason that those sentiments, you will see them recurring time and time again. And if you want to show that you are not obsessed with race and ethnicity, then you would call the name Garvey, because his own race and ethnicity becomes a passport for you to declare how open-minded and democratic and altruistic you are.
Yeah. It's interesting
Yes.
that the People's Political Party, which was founded in
By-
1929, you know what the symbol of it was? A lighthouse.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
A lighthouse.
Very scriptural and
Yes,
spiritual.
a lighthouse. It was,
Yeah.
and I was saying, because I remember we spoke about it previously on the program and we were talking about it. He had a 14-point manifesto, which was the
Yes,
first
we
of its
did.
kind. Yes, and some of the principles that he had, this is 1929, were there. So a lighthouse. Wow.
Well, just like how Mr. Golding has revived the UNIA and has been president, look like it might be for over 20 years.
No, not
Perhaps we perhaps we
Shot
could
at
bring up the People's Political Party. What is it name?
People's Political Party, yes.
And maybe you could just revive that one and
Yeah, here it is.
install yourself as president in honor of your brother.
An 8-hour workday, a minimum wage, a larger share
Done.
of self-government,
That those two are
protection for
done.
native industries, a legal aid department for the
That's
poor,
done, you know.
technical schools for each parish, not finished.
Not finished.
Land reform,
Not done.
libraries and civic improvement for parish capitals.
Underway.
City status for Montego Bay and Port Antonio, a national park
Not
at
done.
the Kingston.
Oh, Mobe is done, not Port Antonio.
Yeah, a national park at the Kingston Racecourse. Where was that?
That Religany, right here where we are in the plane.
Emancipation Park.
Emancipation
Yes.
Park is in that location.
Wow. So he did that. What a thing.
Look like the producer want to dock your wages. The volume, audio. So we're looking at the philosophies of Marcus Garvey as reflected in his 14-point manifesto. And there are still some things to be done, Percy. So we could pick up the baton and carry it another leg of the way. What say you?
Well, instead of city status for
Port Antonio,
we have city status for Portmore. Or no, parish status.
parish status.
He never envisioned that. But interesting it. So a lot of the things that he spoke about in 1929 was really visionary and continuous too. Some of them we didn't reach it, but anyway.
I'm telling you, for such a long time.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to know what Mr. Golding has been doing with the UNIA.
Perhaps
If
you
it
talk to him
just drop asleep and you just come out on
with a
the-
headline, which is catching,
Yeah.
which is headline catching.
I
Instead of
really want to hear your thoughts on this suggestion that he had.
reparation travel tax.
Yes.
So we telling-
Impose tariff on visitors from former colonial powers, Garveyite Golding urges. Good idea or suspect idea? I won't call it bad idea. At this point, no ideas are bad. You want to think about it?
Kind of easy to do.
All right, let me tell you what he says.
Because everybody who visits us outside of those who come from China, Japan, most people come from former colonial powers.
If the government, I'm going to tell you how he said it. If the government was serious, one of the easiest things you could do is put a reparation tax on every passport from a country that has a history in trading in chattel slavery and kidnapping Africans, Golding charged on Wednesday. But we're afraid of that because it's going to hurt our tourism. But listen, we've spent how many years building up Brand Jamaica? Either we believe in it or we don't believe in it. I don't think it would hurt Brand Jamaica, but it would signal to the world that we are serious, he added. Now he says every passport. That would mean all of the whole heap of black people in Europe
And
would be
US.
paying their own reparation. So it's a suspect idea for me. Because I can't see how you would exempt those. You'd have to show up and say, okay, I'm 1% black, I'm 2%.
That would be very interesting.
You understand where we're going with it? It is a suspect idea. I won't say it's a bad idea.
It's so like that.
Because
You know,
while the leaders of the world are sleeping on the job and are refusing to be righteous in their behavior towards the stolen people of Africa and other nations that suffered these kinds of atrocities, our great Jehovah God is moving things. So there's a flood of Africans across the world in places that probably don't really want to take them in the way they take in the Ukrainians. But they are getting there anyway. And the browning of the world is well underway. So if you're going to do reparation tax, you're going to have a problem convincing black people that they should pay their own hostage money.
okay.
So it's a suspect idea for me. I wished he had looked at maybe some of the land reform issues, because we still have a lot of land, crown land, even though the commissioner of lands is being given more and more. UDC, all kinds of government agencies, Sugar Corporation, SCJ, so them name, Factories Corporation. There are a lot of government agencies sitting on land, which over time they are doing their own form of land reform, giving it to friend and company, using all kinds of strategies to put it into the wrong hands, I believe, without first making sure that the displaced Africans, when you come off of the plantation with nothing, your descendants should now be able to own land. We have enough land that we can do land reform as one of the reparatory steps. You can't blame the Queen of England for what we are calling squatters, because she couldn't take the land with her, she had to leave it. That means to say we are the ones who are not being judicious in our distribution of land. So if I were in the UNIA, I would be pressing that particular. In fact, I probably would be very radical and be moving people onto parcels of land. And that, especially now, people burn out and, homes have been destroyed. And I'm not seeing anything going up that looks like what the Office of Disaster Preparedness should be doing. Because in times of disaster, that office is supposed to have a plan to make accommodation, reasonable accommodation for displaced persons, to be putting them, to be giving them the necessary supplies and stores that they need. That's what they were set up to do. And they were used with alarming efficiency during the COVID pandemic to do all kinds of things that we never even know, say, they could have been pressed in those directions. People are still poring over some of the records to really understand what just happened here. And you have simple things like families displaced, fire in a community.
Interesting.
And the Office of Disaster Preparedness is not saying, okay, this is the area in which we're going to accommodate people. Register here if you need, whatever it is you need to do. We're not seeing it. Anyway, that is a story for another day, because we're going to look at it. There are provisions in the law which require them to have those arrangements. There are parish managers. You remember I had gone through it, Percy? There are parish managers and people who should be coordinating the different various relief plans that ought to be in place. Yet you see the people on TV trying to press the Prime Minister for something. I would have imagined that since the Prime Minister has all these houses that he has earmarked, I'm calling them the poor relief house. I've forgotten what he has a name for it with a little more dignity than poor relief house. But he has a number of houses that he has made provisions for to give to people who need home. Listen, you have a whole set of people who need houses now.
Yeah,
why not?
And the numbers increasing.
Yeah.
And then interestingly, on the way back from doing the funeral on Wednesday,
Yes.
I noticed that
You're kind of whispering. I can't even hear you.
houses that are there on the Caymanas.
Yes.
Yeah.
The matchboxes that you and I are constantly talking about.
Yeah, that could use some of those.
Yeah, I thought about that because they're not sold.
Oh, yeah. So could use
If they're, yeah,
and it was built,
they
and
could
it's been
allocate
built
them.
with the allocation of monies from government. To deal with it. So you
There's
can make a
so
decision
many
to
things
fix
that he could do. So many things that he could do other than tell the people that we're short on resources.
to do SOS.
This is such an excellent time for the leaders of our country, in particular on the political side, to show that they have a heart for people by just responding to the immediate need. This is when you have an emergency in your house, every priority gets shifted around.
It has to be.
You could never look at a child who just fell and bust his lips and lose 2 teeth or something. You could never tell him that, son, you're going to have to
Wait.
you're going to have to wait because so-and-so comes first, or this money was earmarked for that or the other. No, you respond to emergencies with empathy and compassion and taking charge, recognizing that the responsibility is on you.
Yeah, it is. And even as we ponder that point and think about it, the thought just passed through my head to say, look like Jamaica's been, in terms of the things that have happened in the last 60 years, we have been, lurching from emergency to emergency because we don't have a plan. What would you say to that? So the government said, no, we're going to stop and just deal with the emergency. There was the emergency when we came out of being under the Queen's cocktails, as you call it, to dealing with a more equitable distribution of the wealth in regards to our persons. And there was a famous two Jamaica speeches by
Yes.
Mr. Siaga. Remember that? And two Jamaicans. So they said, let us deal with that emergency. But in dealing with that emergency, people would say we created other emergencies. But I believe that if what you have advocated for a very, very long time, the whole thing of land, if at the outset we had started to deal with the issue with land, a lot of the challenges we have would not be with us today. And in terms of really shifting the levers of the economy to favor more Jamaicans instead of a few Jamaicans. Because I think an emergency then, and I'm not talking about what some countries have done, just whole scale displace people from what they had previously and said, okay, you don't have that anymore, you have that, but then never empower the people through education and all of that to be in a better place, because look what we did with education. You remember the 50 missing schools? Got a
Oh, it's
grand,
Thursday, so Rusty won't call you.
yeah, we had a grand opportunity to do something about the real strategic things that would lift the prosperity of our country, and we never did it. And that is what started at that point in time, the rampant corruption that we see today, because those seeds, whether we like it or not, were sown right after we became independent as a nation. We never shifted like with the police force, what they were supposed to do. All of them things, and they just compound together and we have what we have today. What do you think?
I think you're very unhappy about it.
Yes. Not very
No,
happy
it
about
is
It's just that we have had opportunities upon opportunities to do real shift.
To be fair, that's the part I think about. I mean, you can always look at the history and see that we dropped the ball at an early point in the game. But then I think the game continued, and every player who comes on must come on with a sense of urgency about how do I kind of bring things back to where they ought to be as nearly as possible. And that's what I keep thinking about, those who came on the scene. And even in our time now, as we are at the table, what do I do to try and make up? And our ideas need to be better. Our ideas need to be less hostile in their intent, less punitive, and more geared towards a shared future.
That's what it is.
So, for example, this put a tax on foreign passport thing, that's not moving you towards a shared future. That is deepening the wound, in my view. It means you're prepared to steal it from me. That's what it tells me, that you see that I'm not willing, and you're prepared to take it from me in the course of, it's like when they used to marry products.
Remember that.
Yeah, this one not moving, so let me tie it to one that's moving, and burden the person with it. That never leaves a good taste in anybody's mouth. You have to
get sugar, and you have to buy.
Yeah. You have to get what's yours in a way that leaves the other person feeling, well, it should not leave the other person feeling robbed. And you cannot impose it in a way that places a penalty on the wrong individuals. So when you're crafting your ideas, if you're not coming at it with the heart of Christ, let me just say it plain, you gotta come with a heart of love.
You have to come there.
If you're not coming at it, then the ideas you get are going to be what I call suspect ideas.
Because the motivation.
Got the motivation wrong.
The motivation wrong.
Yeah,
the principle
you know
can't
that the man
sustain
don't
it.
want to give it to you, and so you're gonna try trick it out of him. Cannot work.
Or coerce it out of him.
Yeah.
Which is what we normally do anyway. That's the normal thing, you know. To kill, to steal, to destroy. If you're not doing it, all right.
That's the way
We're
of the
gonna try
world.
to kill you.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to destroy you.
Put you to sleep and take it out of your pocket.
All kinds of things.
That's more a female strategy.
It is. You speak and never me say.
Well-
the Mr. Producer can imagine if he did say that. All of the I'd be
Yes,
laid
but-
down hellfire. And,
Yeah,
you know,
but I mean, let's be fair about it. Depending on your ability, like you would say, we would steal, kill, and destroy. You have to have the capability to approach it in a particular way. So, I recognize my limitations. Me now go try fight you for it.
So,
I'll put you to sleep and take it out of your pocket.
Oh wow.
And that would be an offense. You wouldn't wake up and feel good.
No.
You and I could not move forward as one.
No, sir.
After that, right. So it is with these issues. If you are unable to get what you want from the man on the other side through diplomacy and reasoning and consensus,
vision, consensus.
then that's his problem, you know. When you have done the right thing by approaching it the right way, it becomes his problem, which I believe that, and it will shortly unfold massively, you are going to see these countries continue to pay the price for the atrocities of the past. You're going to see it happening in their nations with their people, the different things that they seek to do. I'm so confident about that I don't pause for it. What concerns me is in this country where we have the resources and the potential or the ability to do something for ourselves and we don't. That is what concerns me. There is land that we can give to people. Let us find a way to do it and not do it where you're constantly having to be looking over other people's shoulders. That's one where land reform is concerned. I believe it is actually quite simple. Nothing complex
I
about
agree with you.
it.
No, I agree with you. Because if we were really serious in terms of land reform, we'd put resources behind of it. You can't look at successive governments who have had in a line item for land reform. Have they really put the resources behind of it, or they've put the resources between what is gonna give me the biggest PR
Yes.
out of it?
And so you have many failed.
Yeah.
Operation Pride.
Yeah, what's
Do you
that?
remember Operation
Of
Pride?
course. And
Out of it, I think you mean I don't even want to talk about some of the things that happened
we
with
know,
Pride,
we know.
and then it fizzled away into something shameful.
Something
It's 7.
very corrupt
Can
and
you
big.
imagine it's 7 a.m. already? Where's the time going? Come back.
no, it can't. It says even for the levels, the Lord elect, he would shorten days.
You'll short. Oh, I have to tell you something about that. All right, let's take our 7 o'clock break. When we come back, I'm going to talk to you about the guests that we have lined up for today and how we're going to be proceeding.
STEM Uprising invites you to support their 5th annual blood drive and back to school treat at the Lionel Town Hospital on Friday, August 19th. The blood drive starts at 9 a.m. and you can join us at midday for the back to school treat. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, invite as many donors as you can, and you will be eligible to earn cash prizes starting at $10,000 for third place, $20,000 for second place, and first place prize of $50,000. And there's more! Free medicals for all students returning to school this September. Don't miss this opportunity to give blood and save lives. Welcome to the Ligony Club. This beautiful property is nestled in the heart of New Kingston and is the single largest sporting facility in the English-speaking Caribbean. JD's Urban Pub is our resident restaurant. You can trust them with all your catering requirements. Take advantage of our excellent amenities and allow yourself to be pampered by our courteous and efficient staff in the comfort of our well-appointed and welcoming public spaces. You are being invited to make this your home away from home. Take advantage of our full-service gymnasium. Our 8 tennis courts. Feel free to wander through the gardens and enjoy the relaxing atmosphere of this oasis that remains as charming today as when we first opened our doors in 1910, and our large-size swimming pool.
Welcome back to the Morning Connection again. Let me just emphasize what a beautiful day it is here at the Ligony Club, where we are hosted by our club family. Beautiful morning, Percival. I mean,
beautiful morning, but some of the time not beautiful news that we're talking about in terms of the foolishness that continues to happen in our country. Beautiful country. I met a lady yesterday. We saw this lady at my location. This white lady, Caucasian. It's sitting in the back of a car and just peeping out. I was like, hello, how are you? What are you here for? She says, oh, I'm here with my husband. Her husband was inside doing something with pastor. Anyway, we talk and she says, it's a beautiful country. I just love it. Yeah. I'm so glad that you recognize that we have a beautiful country. But do you recognize that we have a beautiful country and exemplify the beautiful behavior that go with a beautiful country? And you just said something to me in the break and I'm going, really? You talk about it, cause me I said, no man, you can't do that, man.
Well, first I thought you were telling the lady to take her eye off our country.
No, sir.
It sounded like you were heading.
No, I was echoing what I appreciate.
Well, because you specified that she's Caucasian.
Yes, no man, no
I
man.
thought you said, take your eye off our country.
No man. No.
Oh boy, I'm being facetious. But no, I got to give a shout out to our friends from STEM Uprising. They are having their second blood drive tomorrow on the 19th. This now is for the benefit of the students in Lionel Town. Sorry, the Lionel Town Hospital. I mixed it up. They're doing a blood drive and a back to school treat.
Okay.
The students in Lionel Town will be the beneficiaries of the back to school treat, but the treat is going to be somewhat diminished because I just heard from Mrs. Williams that having waited look like maybe at least a month and a half to get their goods out of customs, the shipment arrived, well, when I say arrived, it was delivered to them. 400 school bags are missing. A whole lot of clothing items, she says, and books and pens are missing.
You know that gone black market.
In the Jamaican customs, while the goods were in the custody of our own government right here, things donated, paid for by donations that they got.
So hold on, 400 school bag, that's like a school, you know.
That's true.
That's like a school because in rural areas, school populations
fairly small,
between 4 to 6. That's like a whole school that would have benefited from getting school.
400. I'm wondering if she meant 40.
No,
but she wrote it twice. 400 school bags are missing.
Shame.
Books and pens and pencils and a whole lot of clothing items.
You can't just get up and walk, you know, because I have gone to customs to clear goods. Like people would send bars and in my name for somebody to help me. And the security have to go through.
The security tight. If it's missing there, the customs should explain it.
And the humanity of waiting outside in the sun. And yes, it is not pretty. So when 400 school bags,
oh man, she said she's sad. They're in tears.
Oh my God. Somebody have to answer
and you know,
this.
to add to that,
out customs, because if something comes in you are responsible for it, your purview, and it goes missing, is customs going to refund them?
Well, we're gonna find out because
that is crazy.
She wants it dealt with. She's not just gonna accept it and move on.
So
the first thing is, when you as a charity, when you're set up as a charity and you solicit and receive donations, you are a trustee for those funds, and where you could say, all right, my money, I make a mistake and I need to take the hit for it. When it's other people's money, you can't just simply walk away because you know the trust that they repose in you when they make donations. So I feel for her. I feel for them. And I volunteered, Pastor. I said, you know, we'll assist in following it up. I see Customs Department spending money on some beautiful advertisements, which I'm like, why are they even advertising? Is beyond me. Waste of money for customs to advertise. There's no competition. Customs have no competition.
Oh my God.
You don't need to advertise. You need to just do your job well so people can trust you.
Yeah, because whatever handling agent, there'd be insurance, but they can't track to see where did it come.
Yes, because
did it come on the ship?
People don't ship things. People don't ship things so they can make insurance claim. They ship things so they can enjoy the benefit of the goods that they ship.
No, but you know,
it has to be followed up. You're quite right about that.
Because I'm just thinking that's probably explain how the guns come in.
Well, we know.
No, but if she could remember what kind of school bags it was at the time, watch it. It's going to.
You're gonna pop up somewhere.
It's going to come up somewhere.
Yeah.
It's gonna come up somewhere. So if she could tell us what, and just put Jamaicans on alert. Like Frankie called us yesterday. Oh, Frankie, I call. I have took his number, put it in my phone. The guy who called, who's downtown, listening to us, and the confusion in terms of God and Christianity and so on. Yeah, Frankie, if you see any box, don't look like the normal box, give us a call. And the people downtown were.
So you're saying put the people at work to suss out and find out where these bags are gonna pop up. But yeah. All right, and remember now, you know. Well, can I tell you? It took her way over. It's almost 2 months. It took them to get these things that would normally take 1.5, 2 weeks. And the reason for it is that somehow the shipment was associated with, there was a find of weapons on the port connected to somebody in the whole architecture of relationship that surrounded that shipment.
So the
Like a
container
broker
came-
or some client of a broker, or so it took them forever to gain access to their goods. I think the shipment had arrived from the 30th of June or sometime in June.
June, July, August. Yeah.
Yeah, so it took them a really long time because everything touchy. It's as if so much work was being done to sanitize and make sure. And in the meantime,
Thing gone
the thing
missing.
was robbed.
It just
They were
got out.
robbed.
No.
And
The bags.
and
just
see
put-
the extent of it. STEM Uprising was very drawn to the SOS Children's Village.
Yes.
And the treat that we did for them, they actually says, well, we have things coming in. We will make a donation to SOS
yeah.
from it. So SOS
was a benefit.
would have benefited
Those-
from those stolen bags.
Yeah.
Because as it is now, she has to give priority to the event that, so it's a loss all around.
No, but no, we are I'm just watching the animation of those 400 bags. There's a leader there. He says, "We're not going to these children." So they put on feet and they walked out of the warehouse, walked down.
The bags, you said the bags revolted.
And they, you know what they did? And they put on some of the clothes. Said, we can't go out there naked. So what we're doing, we're putting on feet and we
All right, we're not giving Pastor any more day off. No more day off. Yeah, because you're quite right. They must have walked out on their own.
Yes,
Jamaica, we're on vacation. No school for us.
No, sir.
And stick to the streets.
Yes,
But you're right, you know. I don't think it's the last we've heard of it. But let's talk a little bit about our guests for this morning. We're going to start off with, who's our first guest? Is it the CEO and founder of the Whirlwind Group of Companies? Oh, JPS first? Ah, all right. So I'm excited about the Whirlwind Group, and I'll tell you why in a moment.
Whirlwind is a brand.
But our friends at JPS,
Whirlpool.
JPS Cares, we are going to have Mr. Shamar Harrison joining us by telephone. And Shamar is going to talk to us about the policies and the treatment of vegetation.
The middle of hurricane season.
Yes, it is hurricane season. Major issue for us is the continuity or the reliability of the power supply that energizes the nation. And a big hazard always, in good season and bad, a major hazard is the vegetation that surrounds the electrical poles, wires, infrastructure. Also in your own home, you have to understand how to treat with what's on your side of the fence. So we're going to learn. This is the first male guest that we're having from JPS.
Yeah.
He is a unicorn,
That is a unicorn.
a mythical creature rarely seen.
You're talking about the Jamaican names. They're not a disappearing, bro.
No, you're very well represented this morning because 2 women, 2 men. So you're not unicorn status.
That's what
Maybe
I-
they could say good Jamaican men is achieving unicorn status.
You know what I said?
But then again, you're well represented here this morning too.
No.
You and the producer are good Jamaican men.
Yeah, but you know, it's just another side.
So there's a resurgence.
They have to be telling. I've
the
been telling a lot
species
of
rallying.
ladies, I've been telling a lot of ladies. So she said, "You want one like you?" I said, "But me married." This is a actual conversation that I'm having. Somebody.
Do I need to give you like a warning? I have to Mirandize you?
No. I said, no.
Feel like I
And
need
she
to give
says,
him a
"You have any
Miranda
more
warning.
like that in your church?" I say a couple of them, but it no, it's a serious question.
I just said a couple of them, but the stock is going down fast.
Yeah, we have a lot more gentlemen like that who think the way I do. She said, "Really?" She said, "Really?" I said, "Yes." And I said, "But you know that you have to be a believer." I'm just, lady, it was an interaction
Yes,
with somebody. And I said, "No, man." I said, good Jamaican men are there. It's just some of the times what we say how they should be, and you have a lot of diamonds in the rough
They're in hiding.
that you just have to
So you
work
try.
with.
So
So I'm into working with a lot of men young men in
You're
terms
a
of
minor.
mentoring them and saying, come on, guys, there's greatness in you. You have to step up to the plate. Because one of the things that we seem to forget for a very long time, we have not had good role models for our males to follow in regards to what has happened with absentee fathers and so on. But they are good Jamaican
High
males,
prison
the
population.
and so on. Yeah. So we just encouragement to the
All right,
ladies.
so your
All is not
church,
lost.
so
All is
your
not
church
lost.
have a factory.
It's not that factory,
Some
it's sister.
good men are on the shelf. Others are in the workshop being polished up and
working on it.
so that's
around.
part of the church outreach program.
Yeah, man, working with them.
Bringing the ladies with promise of good men. Works every time. It's amazing how many of the ministers and things that get to that require spiritual attention pertain to family, to relationship. People want husband, people want wife, people want children. It's just amazing how much is focused on family. Yesterday, Neville's questions about family touched touched an important nerve, and I was trying to say to him, I did say to him very plainly, but you didn't react. I said to him that stable, committed relationships don't necessarily require a civil ceremony in the presence of either pastor or the registrar.
I heard you, but that has been a point that you have made for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have a major discussion about it. You know that.
I love it.
I will not be drawn into that discussion with my beloved friend.
I mean, I know you're throwing that beloved right there, so now we know that's
you are my beloved friend, of course.
No, but I was saying to someone else that if in your conscience and your understanding of the world, it is important that you perform or that you have a ceremony performed to acknowledge your commitment to someone, then you must absolutely do it, because what is not of faith is a sin.
Amen.
And so if you are of a mind that just jumping the broom or saying something privately to each other and sticking with it, your covenant can be private. I would never say to a person, because you have not done it the way I did it or the way I believe it should be done, what you have done is wrong. That, to my mind, would be repeating the same sin that we have accused many of when they came and found us in our condition of faith and decided to just rewrite the book for us and penalize us when we don't follow the script. Anyway, I digress. First guest is the unicorn, the JPS unicorn.
It's so fascinating that
I digressed.
No, it's something that happened yesterday to me. Remember, I told you I was going to do a wedding.
Yes.
I did a wedding. And then afterwards, somebody come and said, a couple want to talk to you. So I said, Papa. And they says, we want to renew our vows.
Oh, beautiful.
I said, okay, we want to renew your vows. When we press deeper,
yes,
somebody seemed to have performed a
ceremony that
them. There's no legal. Them look
that no, don't add up.
They said in terms of their conscience.
Yes. They're married.
Their own thing, but they said to deal with the legal. They do it.
Yes.
It's interesting that you said that.
Because me just prophetic like that.
I said nothing to you.
And you know what I love about you? Oh, you are a man of truth.
What that is.
No, because you could have refrained from saying that story. Understand, that sitting beside you, I'm legalistic in my construct because of my training. And so one would assume that Minette would say, stand before the registrar, get the paperwork, because that has meanings in property and all kinds of other things, in law, for you, for your children, whatever. One could assume that that would be my position. And they would assume too that you, being pastor, God put together, let no man, that you would also have a similar viewpoint, right? Yet, I declare that I'm a hybrid. Yet here I am saying, somewhat radically, that if the two people who have made a commitment to each other are satisfied in their mind and in their heart that we are a married couple before God, in the eyes of God, and they choose not to do it, the way man has declared it to be necessary for legal reasons, whatever. I say that is a marriage. You could have said to me, Minette, that is not so in the eyes of God. Whatever the law set by man is also ordained by God. You could have used any number of arguments to say what I'm being too radical. Instead, you offered a story that exemplifies the point I'm making. And that's why I say you're a man of truth, because somebody else would say, foolishness, take care of your ungodly self and move on. But it is, so to me, Pastor, that's what I'm saying, that I appreciate the fact that you say something that makes the point clear. Now, what happened is that couple may have come to the understanding that there are some legal consequences of the paperwork being absent. And when you go to the U.S. Embassy and they say, show me your ties to Jamaica, and you can't show that here is the paper.
Because the truth is, even with your position,
yes,
we live in a world with rules and things and common understanding. So that is what it is. And so let's work with that. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because one of the first, when I just been in ministry, a couple came and they came to me and they says, she was a Christian, he wasn't, but he was so faithful enough to carry to church. Come to church, and they said, boy, we want to get married. They had a son together.
Right.
And I said, okay. My thing was, you know what the word God says in terms of being unequally yoked. And then I deferred to a lady, call her one of the church man. I said, no. If he has determined that he wants to be married to her and they have a child, allow them to be married. You know what happened after that? And that's why you don't even know. The guy became a Christian.
Yeah, because didn't the Apostle Paul say that the unbelieving man covers the unbelieving woman, and the unbelieving woman covers the unbelieving man? So it is for your own salvation and safety that you don't want to be unequally yoked, but you are covered in a true marriage. You are covered.
Yeah, and some of the times what I've come to discover here, some of the times this is something, but ultimately. I say to it, the rules and the principles are there. But some of the time, when you read the scriptures, you know, and this is something that we must face every single day. We put God in a little box. Rahab. No, Rahab was
absolutely my sister.
Yes. And Rahab is in the lineage of
Christ.
Yes, so
which is to show you that, well, we always get back there, that our ideas about sin and righteousness and so on are upside down. And when that gentleman called yesterday, Frankie, it touched my heart, because here was a man saying, I am searching. I was searching from a long time, and man tell me things that confuse me. Man tell me things that confuse me. And it is always so. We are the ones who put our own viewpoint and tell people things that turn the world upside down and try to blame God. And then when we see man blaming God, we ourselves get into a state and try to say, but you must separate God from what the man is saying. And we're the ones who start the confusion. God is very clear. When him talk to you, you know that is him. But if you are not practicing your faith, living your faith, then you become vulnerable to confusion. So when man says something, I like to, even in my own understanding of the Bible and so on, I like to separate what is culture and politics from what is the word, the vision, the will of God. I like to do it.
And it's important for you to do that.
Yeah.
That's why I say to a lot of people principles. But just to that gentleman yesterday was in confusion. and I was reading it recently somewhere. God, because he's God. Remember, I keep stating it for people. You know? He's not bound by time, space, matter, continuum. And we need to understand that as believers. And he says, the heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament speak of his handiwork. Time come again. I want to go on this morning. and him look like him taking pleasure and saying,
Time.
Time.
All right, let's take our break. We'll be right back. And then I can tell you about the other guests. I've only done one so far.
STEM Uprising invites you to support their 5th annual blood drive and back to school treat at the Lionel Town Hospital on Friday, August 19th. The blood drive starts at 9 a.m. and you can join us at midday for the back to school treat. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, invite as many donors as you can, and you will be eligible to earn cash prizes starting at $10,000 for third place, $20,000 for second place, and first place prize of $50,000. And there's more! Free medicals for all students returning to school this September. Don't miss this opportunity to give blood and save lives. STEM Uprising invites you to support their 5th annual blood drive and back to school treat at the Lionel Town Hospital on Friday, August 19th. The blood drive starts at 9 a.m. and you can join us at midday for the back to school treat. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, invite as many donors as you can, and you will be eligible to earn cash prizes starting at $10,000 for third place, $20,000 for second place, and first place prize of $50,000. And there's more! Free medicals for all students returning to school this September. Don't miss this opportunity to give blood and save lives. The Morning Connection is not your usual talk show. We aim to stimulate discussion and chart new paths to self-empowerment. So please join us, Minette and Percy, on The Morning Connection, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Best 100 FM. The Morning Connection is not your usual talk show. We aim to stimulate discussion and chart new paths to self-empowerment. So please join us, Minette and Percy, on The Morning Connection, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Best 100 FM. Talk show. We aim to stimulate discussion and chart new paths to self-empowerment. So please join us, Minette and Percy, on The Morning Connection, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Best 100 FM. Morning Connection is not your usual talk show. We aim to stimulate discussion and chart new paths to self-empowerment. So please join us, Minette and Percy, on The Morning Connection, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Best 100 FM.
Welcome back. All right, I'm going to take another shot at telling you about the guests.
No, talk about it.
What should I talk about, Pastor?
No, the Marcus Garvey, the guy who has used his principles in terms of his business. And I did talk about Mr.
Whirlwind? Oh.
Yes.
Mike Dawson.
Yes.
So Michael is the second guest.
Yes.
I'm looking at Eden. So she queued me up. All right. So at 8:30. At 8:30 we have Shamar JPS, which I expect that to be a very interesting segment. And then he is followed by Michael Dawson. Now, I knew of Michael Dawson in telecoms because when this sector liberalized, he was amongst the early movers getting licensed. And like many of us, like perhaps like all of us, suffered a great deal of frustration and tragedy. I think there might even be something still in court in relation to that, but he quickly transitioned, and I love that.
Astute businessman.
I love that. Yes, he transitioned, and he has a group, the Whirlwind Group of companies, named after Elijah's whirlwind.
That's why.
Because Marcus Garvey said,
"You see me in the world."
"See me in the cyclone whirlwind." Anyway, so he has it spans a raft of
It's a conglomerate.
of industries, yes, because he's in media. There's Garvey TV, there's Yard TV, there's Jamaica Online TV or some. Anyway, media. Media is a big part of what he's doing. He's curating content. He's creating content. He's providing a platform for others who have their content to get on the main stage. I think it's beautiful what he's doing. So he's going to, and he's at the heart of this organizing Garvey Week.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he works in close partnership with Dr. Julius Garvey, and the theme this year is Pan-Africanism, focusing on business with Brazil. Brazil
yes.
has what, over 200 million
large
people,
population,
and 100 million black people in Brazil.
A whole lot of opportunities.
Yes,
there.
so, and I mean, Brazil is one of the BRIC countries. So,
BRIC, Brazil,
India, China, Russia.
and I hear that.
Well, we should have spelled BRICS.
Yeah.
Let's get it right again. Brazil, Russia, India, China.
Mm-hmm. And I hear that Tehran wanted to join, and
Who wanted to join?
Iran wants to join.
But it wouldn't spell BRICS.
So, you know,
Bricky.
Bricky, whatever.
Iran needs to think again. Or maybe they want to be right beside India and become BRII.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I've seen worse things. But so that's the Brazil is, and at the conference this week, Brazil was participating every day that I popped by. Their Brazilian counterparts are on Zoom.
Wow.
Doing presentations, showcasing art and so on. Very, very a tremendous
You ever been to
effort.
Brazil?
Yes, the airport. When I went to South Africa, I actually had to pass through Brazil.
Oh, it's a wonderful place.
Yeah, I have not walked the streets like you. Were you there for Rio Carnival?
No. I was there during Carnival? I don't recall. During and for.
Because
Somebody need to mute the producer. I was not before Carnival. That's
Lord
all.
have mercy, we're long overdue to interview Pastor, and the Pastor is a world traveler.
Yeah, but it was interesting. It was an interesting time.
Yeah.
It was the first job I had, actually. And I had.
Oh, you mean you weren't there for the sports related ministry that you were in?
The first job I had, I interviewed, and the person interviewed me said, "Do you have a passport and a visa?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Okay, you are going to represent us in Brazil."
In Brazil.
And I was there for 10 days, and that is when I got an eye opener. You see, Brazil, most Jamaicans are Brazilian when it comes to football. But in terms of the racism and thing,
So you have 100 million African and 100 million mixed race or whatever, and the racism is high.
It's high. It is strong. When you go, so when we were
I want to know the
representing-
ethnicity of the man who asked if you have a passport and a
It was
visa.
Jamaican. It's Jamaican. Him just
Or Jamaican
was-
white man.
No. It was he's my very good friend. He just asked me.
All right, he
because-
gets a pass.
Yeah, he just asked me to see
If you were ready to travel.
That's what
Yeah.
it was in the context, and I said,
But
yeah.
you're a big man, come from university and I take your
But some
first job. You don't must have passport.
No, some people I know come from university and have passport at them time.
Then I would have said what them are doing in university.
Hi, sister. Remember, things have changed significantly when we went
No,
to
pastor. Don't put me in that group of when we went to university. When I went to university,
You had your passport.
people had passport, and you knew you come out of high school or A-level college, and you know that you must get your NIS card. Now it would be TRN. You must get your passport and your driver's license, depending on how far along you were in terms of,
Well, I know.
those are like basic things.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
I'm talking about as real as 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
I was talking to some young people,
Mm-hmm.
and I said to them, "I have TRN." No, sir. I said, "Then
But you ask them if they can drive?
do you have a TRN?"
TRN, okay.
I said, "No." I said, "You need to get it, because what we did for our children earlier, John had this TRN from a very early age, because people are of the impression you only get the TRN when you turn 18. That's not true.
No, you can
And
get a
it-
TRN.
as
The
long as
government
you
don't
pass-
make it easy, mind you.
Yeah, but as long as you have a birth certificate,
Yes.
you can get the
Yeah.
TRN. Yeah, man. And we
In fact,
apply
if
for
they're doing it right, they should assign TRN with the birth
numbers to everyone.
certificate.
I guess that's what NIDS is gonna do.
Oh, yeah, for NIDS.
Yeah,
All right,
but-
here we go again. We're at 7:42 and I've only done the second guess.
No, but it was interesting. It was an eye opener for me. Yeah. And just to close out that segment,
Yes.
when we came
See, everybody see why I can't do the announcement of the guest?
as two black Jamaicans representing a multinational company, and we're interacting with the principals of the company in Brazil, which were white people.
Yes.
And then because then I was in the lab and so on, I had to interact with the people in the lab. They said,
Oh no, black people in
the
them the
black
job.
people interact with those people. 'Cause it was
All right, so let me ask you now: were you treated treated in a discriminatory way? Did the
I know
white
they
people
couldn't
treat
do
you in
that
a
because
racist
then we
way?
were negotiating like a $15 million contract. You
So
can
so
sneeze
they
at that.
pretended.
I don't know if they pretended, but my main interactions was with the black people, and they took me around.
The reason I ask you is that sometimes I find that racism is institutionalized and perpetuated by the blacks as much as by the whites.
Yeah, but
There's an expectation that you're going to be treated in a certain way, and so you just start behaving that way before it happens to you. And I've had the experience of being in countries where they said that black people are treated a particular way, and I didn't receive that treatment. And I've also seen I've seen things happen, and people said that was racist. I'm like, really?
yeah, I didn't even know. Yeah,
I didn't even know, and I didn't respond to it as a racial slur. I powered through and got my business done.
Same for me.
And so sometimes we stand back and are held back because of the same labeling issue that we
people
spoke
put
of
on.
earlier. All right, I am determined to get this done. Our other guest, well,
Michael.
no man, we did Michael with the Whirlwind Group,
And we did.
yeah, because
we are having 3 guests this morning.
yes, 2 ladies are going to come in. So Michael is by phone, Shamar is by phone, and they have 2 ladies that I've invited for you. You share something in common. They are educators.
Man, they get me that trouble. It's a producer. Help.
All right, I've invited them for the producer. How was that?
I said it by 2 ladies to come
2
on.
ladies, yes. I met them at the Garvey, one of the Garvey events. These 2 ladies have a podcast called In the Zone or The Zone. It is aired on one of the Whirlwind
Channels.
media platforms. Yes, you can find them on JA Online TV Right. But they'll talk about it when they come. The first lady is Marlene Lawrence Grant. So the first attraction to me was the Lawrence name. Because
Related?
yeah, when I spoke and my name was announced, she felt that there was a family connection. So Marlene Lawrence Grant and Maureen Mullings Nelson are these two fantastic women who have launched their podcast, and
Two
their
different podcasts are one.
one
Okay.
called The Zone. So they're like us, they co-host, and they talk to a variety of persons, address a wide range of issues, and it's all about educating Jamaicans on values and principles that lead to progress and prosperity. Sounds like us?
I like them.
See, I invited them for you. Will you take them now? I said, Pastor, go and love them. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to seeing them. They're coming out of, well, one lives in Old Harbor. Old Harbor? Yes. So they're driving into Kingston, so they can be with us by about 9
Okay.
o'clock.
So from 9
and we
to 10 they'll be with us. Okay.
and they'll be with us, right, for the last hour. And then we will all head up to, perhaps not you unless you
Going up to
change your mind.
Garvey.
We're going to go by the Marcus Garvey, the marketplace, where, so it's marketplace, entertainment,
So-
and culture and arts. Entertainment center for the arts. Yes, Mecca. So we head there, where there's gonna be a panel discussion today, looking at the business experience of various entrepreneurs
So you're
who
gonna be
have,
on it?
in the post-Garvey era, tried to raise their black-owned businesses. And you see, I'm wearing my carousel shirt. Who can tell? Is it visible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
wearing my
that's-
carousel shirt because I will have an opportunity
To speak.
about.
So they
yes.
invited there? Gotcha.
I think they want people who had a hard time.
He did have a hard time. Oh, he wanted people had a hard time, but he had a hard time. But as you said, like, if you talk to him,
Yes.
he powered through with
Yeah.
all of the things
Yeah.
and what he needed to do.
Yeah.
And he's an optimist for him. He just sees situation, challenges. Oh man, those are opportunities for him. Them tell him no, I'm saying really now?
Opportunities to soar, lift,
Yeah, man.
apply the principle of lift,
Yeah, man.
and get your eagle's wings.
Yeah, man.
That's how you train your wings.
Yeah, man. All the time.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
an eagle, so I'm gonna fly.
I'm not a chicken.
Ryan Mark says, fly.
So did I get it done? Yes. We start with Shamar Harrison, who will show us that JPS cares about the environment and teach us a thing or two on dealing with vegetation. I'm looking forward to that. And then we're going to talk to CEO and founder of the Whirlwind Group of Companies, Mr. Mike Dawson, who is leading the charge for the Garvey Week.
So one
series
question
of
about
events.
his entrepreneurial endeavors, it's mainly in media or he does other areas?
When he comes.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
because I saw there are a number of brands that fall under what they're doing, and they are making a strong push on the Pan-African front, getting all of the countries, economies that have strong presence.
So it's
of
very much into
Africans.
South.
Yes.
South.
So that's Mr. Michael Dawson, Marlene Lawrence Grant, and Maureen Mullings Nelson, who have their own podcast. Two beautiful Jamaican women, full of zest and life. You will see when they get here. And they're doing their thing. And it's just kind of amazing. It fits in very much with what we are encouraging, advocating for persons to use their cultural, their talents and their assets in that field as a platform, both for income generation, revenue, make money from it, as well as to inspire and to share. So those are the guests that we have lined up this morning. And I need to have the number because we're going to take a few calls. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, if time permits, we are going to open a line so persons can call us, those who mourn so much when we are unable to speak. Let me see what Taki is saying. Oh, I looked away. First, I must say good morning. Wayne said, morning, best family. I got to get the pronunciation right. And of course, Denatal Basco has sent us a beautiful, full joy. The well-attended, well, you know, he full joyed. The well-attended commemoration of the excellent Pan-African nationals, Marcos Mosiah Garvey, at the Marcos Garvey's Library in Tottenham.
Wow.
I wish you would send me a picture.
Send some pictures.
Pictures, Denatal. Hope you're still on. And then Taki says, good morning, Minette and Percy, all on board. Greetings, positive vibes, goodwill, blessings. We thank you, Taki, and always for your contribution. Yesterday, he didn't tell us to walk good. And I tell you, did you walk good, Pastor?
Yes, ma'am.
Without the blessing? Well, Pastor managed to do a good job, but please do not make that same mistake today. He was interrupted. Unforeseen circumstances, family urgency. I certainly hope all is well with the family. And he's sharing with us that in New York there is another Mr. Duncan, who is dubbed as President General of the UNIA. So there is there two branches? It's a separate branch in America has started
first in the US.
Yeah.
20 million.
And then he came here.
The branches, I believe, all over the world still.
Okay, so he's branch president. Except, no, the one in America is calling himself President General.
Whatever that is.
And he's wondering, Taki is saying, how different or similar are both positions and are they connected? Which base of the UNIA is more central in regard to the movement? Well, I can tell Taki that there is no movement in the one in Jamaica. So if it is central to anything, then it's a sad day for the whole UNIA. Yeah, that would more be like paralysis. Yeah, not a thing going on with the UNIA in Jamaica. In fact, it's more like a status symbol probably to show that you're still, you know, you're still a protester. You're still tilting against windmills. It's kind of sad that we've not done credit
to the
memory of
Marcos
yes.
Mosiah.
And you know what? I'm not even saying we're not teaching the philosophies, because people must go and read and educate themselves. But even to commemorate his birthday, the anniversary of his birth,
Good.
no, see, yeah.
Good. It's still good, but I would want to suggest that we should be further along if we believe, if somebody is a national hero,
Yes.
and the first national hero,
I like where you're going.
it cannot be national hero for national hero's sake.
Or he can't be a national hero because the rest of the world like him.
Yeah,
There must be some
something
contribution
that-
he has made to nation building that we honor and continue to apply.
Right. And so how we honor and continue to apply the legacy is first letting more young people aware of who he was. Not him, all right, he's national. But ask any person under 30, who was Marcos Mosiah Garvey? What did he stand for? What did he do? Most people know that this man,
I don't
before
think
there was internet and travel, had membership of 20 million people around the world.
no.
20 million people? Why do that? Can you imagine if he had the same tools that were available to us? It probably would be 20
the head of the
million.
UN.
Yeah. No, come on. So we do a disservice to the legacy and the memory of what he spoke about.
Yeah.
That
Well,
is-
if we could take a couple of the things that he identified as being paramount to our growth and survival,
he
if we
spoke
could have
about
just
self-reliance a long time.
just apply one or two of them.
Self-reliance.
Yeah,
That is
land reform.
applicable.
You go
Land
back
reform.
to if you go back to his manifesto and just pick any two and say, let's focus and do our best with that, we would push the country forward by a huge margin.
Because as I said, do the 20 that affect the 80.
The 80,
And the 20
do the big
that
20,
affect
the other 80 will go away.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I'm certainly more troubled by the fact that we are not applying the principles which he spoke of, and these are not principles that he invented. These are solid and true principles coming from way back when the creator of this universe
Created
put a certain order in place, and it cannot be otherwise. We will not survive well other than in conformity with that order of things.
And let me just make a point.
Yes, make a point.
The essential things that the Father indicated at the beginning in terms of how we should live and have dominion and are principles that are applicable to every race. It's not only a black race only, but it is the fact you are created in my image. Give you power, give you authority to do what you do. But there are some who believe that only few must have power and authority and everybody else must be servile to them. Somebody would say, mash down that lie.
Yeah, man, bonfire upon that.
Lie. Mash down that lie.
What were you looking for? You're going back to
Marcus Garvey.
yeah. The teacher migration crisis is on the front page. With less than 3 weeks before the academic year begins, the school leadership principals are expressing a great deal of concern because we're going to have the students
I'm no
and
teacher.
very few teachers.
Yeah, because what would be instructive to all of us, to all of Jamaica, the Ministry of Education, if you have a teacher cadre that is supposed to be 100 and you have 80 teachers, you know you have a problem. And so they've been talking about it, but I do believe one way of solving a problem and dealing with it decisively, you have to have the data, the real data. Not, we project, but what is really there. But they have indicated, if we have been following it, he has said that, hello, the technical areas, the people, industrial, that be affected, math, science, because what is happening up north and those who live in up north especially, a lot of the teachers in terms of what is happening in the classroom and so on, I've just come out of the classroom.
I'm going to ask you a question now. Do you blame the teachers for leaving?
No.
I do not blame them, and I would say more of you pack up and go. If this country is not prepared to do right by you, you have the freedom, because you're not slaves anymore. You have the freedom to leave the plantation.
Because the truth is, if you talk to a lot of teachers who are leaving or migrate, it is not only the economic, There are conditions of service. There are problems related to
But safety and security in the country is
and all of those things. And there's a guy who writes in the Observer. He's a guy who's a doctoral student. He writes all the time, and I've got one of his articles, and he says, I know of a teacher, and she simply said to me, because I'm committed to Jamaica now, because there in a lot of teachers, there's a lot of nationalism. That's what you call it? Yeah.
Yes.
Who say we're not going anywhere because this is where we want to live. But we believe there are some things that can be done, that can help us, that can make our tenure even more comfortable. So we balance that out, I don't know, it would be instructive to find out what a trained teacher makes. Because you have pre-trained. Because if you leave university with a degree you're not trained, you get less money than if you're a trained teacher, you know that? With a degree. So,
yeah.
So there's that.
I have two things to update you on. One, you had asked, how many bags did she bring in? 888 bags.
So half of the bag, 50%
people take half of the bags.
What a wicked set of people.
888
Give
bags.
the woman back her bag.
And half of them gone, 400 gone. And they had 3,156 pencils, 732 pens, 2,256 books, 2,400 sharpeners.
That hurt me head, man.
People take 400 bags. You ship 888 bags. Usually when people rob you, they try to rob you so you don't miss it. The 88, they take...
You remember Swiper?
Yeah,
Yeah, what
it's
it's
time for
Fridays.
no swiping. Yeah, Dora the Explorer.
Should be held responsible.
Of course.
Man,
Cannot do things like that. And
Half of the bag's gone.
the Minister of Finance, where
Jesus.
customs fall under. Come on, we have to do something about
no,
that.
sir.
Mr. Prime Minister.
And this is a charity, you know, that trying to do something good for Jamaican students. Take some of the burden off the parents.
thief anything they want.
Wow. Shame. All right. We're gonna deal with that. And the other update is Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda, says that the Holness administration has drawn down more than $115 million from the Windalco performance bond. And this was done within the last 3 days. So the next thing now is to hear what they do with the $115 million because the farmers, the fisher folk, the people who own land along the river, and those who are affected by the disgrace will
much is
have
the
to be.
bond?
So
How
that's
much is
going to
the
be, you know, I think that's given the amount of the bond in at some other occasion, but yeah. And now you already see how it's lining up, you know.
Let me tell you something.
All right, we got the break signal, and you and I are being
Yeah, but
quite
break,
woke.
break.
Oh, you mean we're talking to ourselves? Oh, okay, please.
okay.
We'll be right back.
After the break, I will come back with.
Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Connection. Thank you again for sticking around with us. We do enjoy our Thursdays outdoor broadcasts from the Ligony Club. It's so much better than being in studio. Let me just catch up on... Taki is giving us some information about what's going on with the UNIA in New York. He says President Mr. Duncan has a weekly program via Irie Jam Radio and has a farm called Liberty Farm in Liberia, as well as areas in Jamaica. The program is aired too on WVIP on Mondays and Tuesdays 8 p.m. So it looks like the UNIA is continuing to show some life outside of Jamaica.
Outside of Jamaica,
yes.
Wonder if Stephen is in dialogue with him.
Well, two presidents. We're ready to...
for each chapter.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start with our first guest, Mr. JPS. I won't tell him that I called him a unicorn.
Probably has been listening to you, so you can't get away from that.
But good morning.
Morning. Good morning, mister. Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
You're hearing
All right.
something?
So while we are...
Hello.
Yes, we're hearing him. Good morning, sir. Are you hearing us? Oh.
The phone went off?
Call him back.
All right. Well, so we don't have any dead air. Let's just talk a little bit about what that program is that we're doing with JPS. And we have certainly benefited greatly from the relationship with
Good
JPS.
morning, sir. Welcome to the Morning Connection. This is Percival Palmer with my host, Lynette Lawrence. How are you, sir? How are you doing, sir?
I can hear that the line is open, but I'm not hearing him. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
We're just waiting to make sure that the connection is going through as well as it should. We are indebted to JPS for participating in this program. We know that citizens, their own customers, need to be better informed on some of the policies and the workings,
What you're
especially as it comes when it is hurricane season, and we get such anxiety about the risk of losing service, and also the safety issue is major. Shamar, are you hearing us? I can hear that the line is open, but I'm not hearing his voice at all.
And as we reflect on the
Good
work
morning,
that
Mr.
JPS
Shamar.
continues to do, remember they've worked with Jamaica Social Investment Fund in terms of that partnership, what they're doing, and then lastly we're talking about hurricane preparedness and what happens in the face of a hurricane attending and coming towards us. So what we do, and it was very revealing last week in terms of what lady who is a Western District area manager in terms of what she does, and one of the things we've picked up over the time of the interviews is the fact that these people have served for a very long time in JPS Co. And she said last week, I do it because I do it in terms of service to my nation.
Yes.
Yes, a lot of patriotic people are still present in our country. I do believe a lot of people want to be patriotic, but the circumstances and the environment doesn't enhance or facilitate our patriotism in a sustained way. When we have things like Olympics or World Championship, everybody is high, but I think patriotism must be reflected in terms of the level of the relationship between government and its citizens and their government. So that's something that we want to see more sustained in terms of what is happening. Mr. Shamar, are you hearing us?
Oh no, we're gonna have to call him back. The audio connection was not good.
Yeah.
We could tell that he was on the line, but I was not hearing him at all. Yeah, so
All right. So
we
we're
were trying to do it a little earlier
Mm-hmm.
because we want to give maximum time
Mm-hmm.
to the others, but 8:30 is the agreed slot, so we'll stick with that. I wanted to look a little bit at some of what's happening in
Look at the
some other
teacher.
parts of our
What if we could
the other
get
parts
somebody
of the
from the
nation.
teachers to come?
Of course we can, and you know exactly who you could get if you really want to. But you know, some of it is I know that a part of what we do is to bring a certain level of discussion and clarity on issues that are of national concern. But what's happening with the teachers now, it may be one of those things that you have to step back and let it run its course, because you were talking about some of the reasons why people leave the profession, the level of unhappiness. And as you were putting it, it's not just with the dollars that you have in your hands. There are some conditions of work that are akin to slavery. And there's a lack of care and concern for their overall well-being that comes from the highest places in government. Just a lot of lip service. And you get the impression sometimes that when Jamaicans are concerned about the low performance in the education sector, you get the impression that the political class, let's call them that, blame the teachers. So on top of being badly paid and badly treated, you get blamed for the deficiencies in the sector. If I were a teacher under those conditions, I would be looking to my own survival.
Which is what, survival of the fittest?
Yeah, I cannot blame them. If teachers leave, if policemen leave, well, you know,
Do we fix it right?
you cannot blame them, because we have the luxury and the freedom to make certain choices for ourselves. And they sometimes have to be holding the gate at their own expense. And when they need assistance and when they need support from the people, we don't give it. We sit at home and sometimes we ourselves point fingers at them and blame them. I love it when you pull up the Observer. I tell you, I really am kind of, because yes, Damian Crawford is right. Favor should go. She has not done value.
Because they said
But, you know,
there's a need for new leadership and policy direction and creativity in terms of it. But yeah, I say, man.
But when people don't have confidence in the leadership, you know, you're just going to have a problem all around, everywhere, every ministry, except maybe tourism.
Why is
Because Mr. Bartlett don't let his people miss him.
that?
Or Mr. Bartlett is on top of things, whether you like what he's doing or not. He's scrambling all over it. Here, there's a in the article about the crisis with the teachers. Education Minister Favour Williams has repeatedly downplayed concerns of mass exodus of teachers, saying there was no data to suggest a cause for alarm. I tell you, that is lemming-like activity.
Yeah. So in the article, with there are some recommendations that Mr. Crawford has put forward. He says some are not new. Staff room should be upgraded immediately. Have you gone to a school and seen the staff room? Oh my.
No.
Oh wow. Motor vehicle concessions of varying percentage should be provided. But you know that's going out through the window with the new arrangements that's being pushed by
the
Clark.
salary reform.
Right, yeah.
They won't even have concession on their car, much less.
Yeah, and student loan should be used by 5% for every year that teachers remain in the system. A lot of them have student loans, and this is your baby. The PNP is also pushing for arrangements to be made with telecoms companies to provide free broadband service to teachers as a necessary tool of trade, and deals negotiated with the private sector. Those things help, you know.
Yes.
You know, and it says it is time to reduce bureaucracy to allow principals to engage retired and pre-trained teachers to fill vacancy posts in the short term, and for free teacher training to provide during the summer breaks to university students who are interested in the profession. That's thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
That's thinking out of the box. But
Well, one thing I'm glad of that they have some ideas and they're putting them out there. So that foolishness about not wanting people to take your good ideas. Listen, man, when you have a good idea, shout it from the rooftop. It is a gift from God to you for the service of humanity. Don't lock it up and say, when it's my turn to play, I will use my good idea. By that time, you know what was said to Queen Esther?
If not you,
If you don't do it, salvation will come from another source, and you and your family will be condemned. So that is the rule. If anybody wants to know the rule about when you should step in and help a situation, if you are there thinking about how you can, maximize the benefit to you or keep yourself safe or whatever it is that is purely in the interest of self, if that's what's preoccupying your mind, the rule is salvation will come from another source and you and your family will be condemned. So if the PNP have good ideas while they're in opposition and store them up for when they come into power, by the time you get into power, the game will have changed and your good idea will be just something in your memoirs if anybody cares to read it. So I'm very glad that he's putting out his ideas. Better you put it out and somebody borrow it and use it and it works well for people. Believe me,
the motivation is the people.
Believe me, one day somebody's going to say, where did that good idea come from again?
Yeah.
And we're gone back into the book of Esther for a principle to surround it. When the king sat down feeling pleased and said, did we do anything for that man who had that good idea?
Yes. And it came at the right time. So the truth is, let us continue to plant the ideas out there so we'll get some reward. The chicken thing, customers are anxious. We remember yesterday we highlighted the fact that Jamaica
price was going down today.
$12.50, and people are saying retailers and restaurateurs are attempting to assure Jamaicans that the chicken price reduction announced by Jamaica Board will pass on to consumer despite a fear that they may not benefit.
Also, I need to check out my jerk chicken man
To see,
who was telling me that a leg quarter was $800 to see if it gone down any.
Yeah, but you know what is interesting?
Not tell me said the price of bread remained the same as the price of ketchup. And the price of seasoning never move.
No, but nobody think about
I think it is only one small part of the pricing. And the price of gas, because you have to carry in pan, set it up, and all kind of things. But you see, that's how it actually. No, but that's how it works. It's one thing if you take down one component of the price, but if everything else remain high and is rising, it's very difficult to pass on the full effect of the Just saying.
I'm just remembering because corn has been reduced by 20% on the world market. Shipping costs have reduced by 60%. That has gone through the window, I was talking to somebody who said it used to take them, like, say, for argument's sake, $500 to ship a container out of China. It was costing them then, in the height of what was happening, $1,500 for shipping. So, but they have said that it is happening. So I'm glad that this is happening. Somebody's taking the lead, right? Taking the lead. It's taking the lead. And here's somebody saying, managing director at Kingston George, Gavin Valentine, noted that passing on price reduction to customers is not always black and white, explaining that various nuances and other variables which must be considered.
I'm reading a story here, and the shock, if you were looking at me, you'd see how shocked I am. A 16-year-old boy was killed on Tuesday. And you would imagine, why would a 16-year-old boy be shot up viciously, point-blank range shooting of a teenage boy? The police is pursuing a lead that it may somehow be connected to the murder of the reggae singer Tabby Diamond.
Okay.
This 16-year-old child was removed from school recently, giving trouble at his original high school, scheduled to start at Excelsior Community College in September. And Tuesday was gunned down in the streets. he was shot 6 times in the head and shoulder. You can't shoot somebody 6 times in the head. What would be left?
It's execution side. I mean,
Yeah.
have nothing left. They make sure saying dead.
Wow. His grandmother said she almost threw up when she first saw his body. There is some concern, the police say, that he may have been connected to a group that was responsible for the drive-by killing of the former lead singer of the Mighty Diamond. So you see, earlier we were talking about when you respond in like manner. Well, I was saying that you should always seek to respond in love, like even with the reparation argument. If your response is punitive in nature, it just perpetuates the insult or whatever offense led to the dispute in the first instance. Here it is, the police are saying that there may be a possibility. There's a possibility of a connection. And so now what you have, is reprisal for reprisal for reprisal for reprisal. Before you know it, it's 100 years down the road. Nobody remember why. That is the Juliet.
Juliet and
Romeo and Juliet story. That's what came to mind?
Yes,
man. Well, how did the dispute start? Family feud running for the Capulets and the Montagues. What was the other family? It was the Capulet. Capulet was one family and Monte something. Anyway, Romeo and Juliet. One of you can hit me up and tell me. Just remind me of the two families. But they were at war to the point where 2 teenagers 100 years later were still carrying the weight of it. We have to stop. We absolutely have to stop.
But don't forget this, Remember the story that was headline of talking about the slaughterhouse, Tivoli, and the young man who they couldn't find his body.
Yes.
And this made a connection. The young man that was killed, according to allegations in that article, was involved in a killing that happened. Supposed to have happened in Seaview Gardens. That went bad.
Yes.
And he was a teenager.
Yeah. Children.
Yeah. And so mothers,
back to the family situation there.
Family.
Yeah.
Where is your son? They used to be, where is your son at 8 o'clock? Where is your son? Can you properly account for him? And that's an important thing. So even with this young man that was so viciously executed, because that is an execution. If you shoot somebody in the shoulder,
6 times in the shoulder and head, a 16-year-old boy, Lord have mercy.
They are saying to you, you did wrong, so we are going to show everybody else that killing of Mr. Tabby Diamond is out of order, because it's alleged there was a drive-by that killed the gentleman while he was out there. And I'm saying to us Jamaicans, when will it stop? When will we look in the mirror and say we are responsible for everything that happens? And let us remove ourselves from this narrative of fear. Somebody have to stand up. Some people have to go begin to draw the line in the sand and say, come on, we have to stop it, because the crime and the violence is not like we're jokingly, I was making fun of the fact that the 400 bags that walked out got shoes, put on clothes and walked out of the place. It's people. It is the heart of us as individuals that's perpetuating and continue this cycle. We have to say no. We have to say no. We have to say no within our communities. We have to call it out. Like that mother that I met who said, no, you have to go kill me and kill my son, because I'm not going to get involved in that when they are being drawn up. And it's the mothers, the fathers have to say no. Enough is enough. We have to stand up to that giant in our communities, the fear. I said, no, man, enough is enough. We want better. We can do better. We must do better. Not only for ourselves and our children, but the children that are yet unborn, that are born into these situations.
there's a call for broader anti-discrimination laws in relation to LGBTs. I feel that you and I should discuss it.
It's 8:30. It's time for the break.
Oh, time for the break.
We're saved by the break.
Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Connection. We are so pleased to have online with us none other than Mr. Shamar Harrison.
Yes, that's great.
Got it, son of Harris. Welcome to the program, Shamar.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, Minette. Good morning, Percival, and good morning to the listeners.
Good morning, sir. Sound like you know me, but you know, I've been knowing I don't give enough trouble all over the place. But that's all right.
No, Shamar is just the consummate professional. All right, so Shamar, you are communications assistant, which no doubt means that you will not only tell us everything we need to know on this area in the best possible way, but you're also prepared to respond to the questions that we would have.
Yes, I should be able to. Yes, qualifying.
Tell you, say the man is a professional. All right, how long have you been with JPS?
Over 5 years now. About 5.5 years in From a continuous perspective, about 6 years in total.
Total.
Okay.
Okay. And was that like your first job in the private sector?
In the private sector, yes. And in terms of continuous employment, it would have been the first one that I would have done for a while. Right.
And you enjoy working with them?
I do. It's a very interesting experience. If you are someone who wants to be immersed in not just the electrical sector, but an entity that offers the opportunity for you to learn while you're on the job.
Learn and grow.
Right. That is definitely something that can be experienced at JPS.
And empowering, no doubt.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I hear the confidence in your voice, so I felt comfortable asking you that question without without causing offense. But all right, thank you for making the time to be with us. We know it's hurricane season, and the care of the environment, both from just a concern about the reliability and continuity of service, and then from the health and safety perspective, is a major concern for your company and also for us as citizens. So we want to know what we can expect and what it is that you require of us as regards the treatment of the vegetation that is everywhere, touching and affecting your network.
Right. Trees or plants in general touching power lines can be a real problem. One issue is that it is one of the causes of outages, and this would be emergency outages, the ones that are unplanned. And they can also lead to electrocutions because we tend to climb through trees pretty often, and if the trees happen to be close to power lines, persons aren't always as aware as we'd like. So, there are responsibilities that JPS has and responsibilities that customers have to, one, ensure that we have the most reliable service by preventing as many outages as possible. I know when some persons think of keeping trees or plants away from lines, they just think of JPS coming and bushing. And that's no longer the case, especially now when our processes and our approach has evolved. So over the last few years, we've been using a more data-driven and scientific approach to keeping plants off power lines. And we call this our integrated vegetation management program. It's more in line with international standards, and in addition to bushing, it involves things such as injecting particular trees with chemicals to stunt growth, and in some cases herbicide application, which does get approval from NEPA based on the location, application process, etc. So that's our new approach to be more comprehensive, to have a more successful time in dealing with vegetation. And sometimes our work will cause planned maintenance outages, and we communicate beforehand about these, whether it's through text or on Facebook and Twitter. But when it comes on to you, the customers, know it's really your responsibility to keep the trees on your property from growing into power lines. And as you said, it's especially relevant now during the hurricane season. So plants are a very nice way to pretty up your yard and have things looking nice and beautiful.
Yes.
But it's ideal that you do not plant trees on the power lines. That's one of the main takeaways from this. Do not plant trees directly under power lines. And when you're planting in general on your property, you want to think of a few things. Where are the power lines, and where exactly are you planting this plant? How does it grow? When it's finished growing, or as it continues to grow, is it going to stay low, or is it a high growing tree?
So let me ask you, because I certainly expect a fair amount of outrage from customers who are environmentally conscious and more prone to natural practices than the use of herbicides and chemicals that would stunt growth. When you seek your NEPA approval, Would it be safe to say that there is some level of consultation that with the customers and the community? Because I'm going to assume that you have a policy that affects trees in the public space different from trees that might be in a customer's or on the boundary, or in an area that affects customers, and also fruit bearing trees versus shade trees or just shrubbery. So
I understand the concern.
Right.
Yeah.
What can you say about that? Because I'm sure that that's something you would have had to contend with.
Well, in terms of herbicide application or using chemicals in general, that would not form a majority of the approach.
Okay.
But majority of it would be the bushing. It would be deciding based on the particular species at particular locations if it is you're going to just trim or you're going to cut based on the relationship between the trees and the power lines. But when it comes on to herbicide application, the consultation with NEPA includes the specific species that will be at the location where the application will be. Typically, it would be away from houses. It would not be on private property.
Okay.
Would not be in relation to fruit trees that persons would come in contact with. And in terms of initial consultation with customers are aware based on communication we have been disseminating over time. However, one-on-one consultation is not necessarily something that's done because it's not on private property.
Right.
And we do try to ensure there's signage, etc., when we are actually working, and we do send out the locations where the work's being done. So it is a part of the process, but it's not a very large part, and it would not impact private property.
So let me ask you a question. So, all right, if you are going to cut trees on somebody's property because it is affecting the power lines, you talk to them, you tell them that you're coming, or you just go in and cut?
Okay, so doing it on your property is a different approach. It typically requires consultation. If it is that we are in the location, in your community, and we realize that your tree is in contact, usually there's dialogue. In a number of instances, we may be able to cut it at that point, especially if it is that we are doing this as a part of a maintenance outage process. So during that, it may involve removing vegetation, it may involve fixing other aspects of the infrastructure. But based on the consultation, we may be able to cut it. Then we have times when we are met with resistance, because especially if it's their fruit trees and persons have concerns, etc., it may require some amount of
persuasion.
Yes, persuasion and a conversation. But at the end of the day, what takes priority is the safety of customers and the reliability of the grid. So there are instances where we may need to cut despite some amount of objection. But if it's on your property, there is going to be conversation with you, but it may not be that we visit beforehand to have that conversation and then revisit to cut, because we may not realize until when we're about to actually undergo the outage that this particular tree on this particular property is in contact, because we do assessments beforehand, going through the community to see the nature of the work that we'll be doing within this particular time. But if it's a situation where we would have missed this specific tree on this specific property, then there may not be time beforehand, and that's why.
But there's also the fact, to shorten it a bit for you, there's also the fact that if the tree overhangs into the public space, then the part that overhangs, as it is with neighbors, if your tree overhang your neighbor, the piece that overhang the neighbor is yours to deal with as you see fit. The danger is when you want to cut down the whole tree, but trimming back branches that encroach and could constitute a nuisance or a danger is generally not a problem.
Right, but I want to say two things in relation to that. Especially when it's on person's property, the first approach would be to trim and not to cut the entire tree.
Yeah.
And as I said, we would consider the species, etc. But I want to underscore the importance of being proactive. Being proactive in terms of, as I said, bearing in mind what you're planting that may grow and be close to power lines. Not planting directly under the line, thinking of If you're planting on the line or close to, for example, we'd want you to consider planting low-growing
Yes.
plants.
Well, those now you could easily just stunt.
Right, and regularly trim your trees, because if you're regularly trimming the trees, it requires less work in the future, and it would prevent us from needing to intervene at all.
Yes.
So that proactivity is very important.
Do you engage in any kind of campaign in communities where certain risks are rife, where you begin to just remind customers, put something in the mailbox, send them something, communicate with them in some way to encourage and remind of whatever work needs to be done on private properties? Is that a part of the communication plan?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Vegetation management communication is an ongoing part of our customer education process. So whether it be via emailers to customers, we also have produced flyers that we share at meetings. Depending on the type of outage that's being done, it may be shared with customers, etc. It's also a part of our radio advertisements on television. So we are using as many avenues as possible to get the message out and to remind customers of their responsibility, which is really to try to keep the trees on your property away from the power lines.
Now, if there are customers listening who have a concern, maybe they have a tree that looks like it could be a problem and somehow it was overlooked or whatever the situation might be, and they need to reach out to JPS, is there some very easy way to do so other than to call and join the line? I almost know the JPS music by heart now.
You constantly joining the line, yeah.
Is there some easy way that they can call or interact with JPS for a quick solution?
If for some reason this particular tree or trees they've gotten out of hand, and you probably haven't gotten a chance to trim them and they're already touching the lines or they're too close, then you can reach out to us through our My JPS mobile app. You can make a report or request assistance there or through our web portal on our website. So those are two pretty convenient ways. But what I'll advise is, unfortunately, it will likely not be an immediate response based on the number of those requests that we get. And that's one of the reasons why consistently throughout our communication, we are advising customers and requesting that, you do your part. You try to be consistent in the trimming if it's necessary, and you be proactive. But those are two methods of contact if calling is not the most convenient.
Yeah. I know Pastor asked the question about, contractors just cutting the tree before the question is asked. Is there any policy in place that would assist customers now whose trees are cut down without their permission, or they lose trees of value through the actions of a contractor or
and a redress?
Is there any policy in place that
like you cut down a tree or a
typically we would not be on your property without your permission to specifically cut trees. But if a situation like that happens, the same reporting methods can be used, whether through the mobile app, or you can call or send an email to us as well. And that's calljps@jpsco.com. That's the email address. And the My JPS mobile app is available in the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. So you can use those methods. You can advise what happened. You can say the date and provide any other information that you may have related to the situation, and we'd investigate and ensure that the matter is addressed, because that's not how we want to handle situations like that. We want to ensure that our customers are protected, the relationship is one of mutual respect, so that's not something that we'll be encouraging.
Yeah, very well said. I have to ask you now, in terms of your coordinated work with NEPA, well, you would have seen the uproar with the recent fish kill and contamination of the water source, the Rio Cobre. What kind of working relationship is maintained with NEPA as you go about doing things that can affect the environment?
I can speak specifically to the relationship as regards the herbicide application.
Yes.
Right.
And it does require NEPA, or does involve NEPA doing an assessment. They determine the species of plants that are at the particular locations that we're asking for this work to be done. It involves assessing water sources that may be close by. It involves evaluating how much of contact the public may have with the location. So that is done for each set of communities that we do work in. So if it's going to be for 2 weeks that we're going to be in these number of communities, they would have beforehand done that assessment. And then if we're moving to another location, that assessment is again done. So it's an ongoing thing to ensure that both customers and the property and the environment are protected as best as possible.
I'm actually very pleased to hear that. And I'm tempted to ask you under what protocols this assessment takes place. Is there a license involved, or is it JPS in the exercise of its responsibility as a good citizen, or
There is an agreement that governs this particular approach. The specific name of it slips me now, but there is an agreement which we did enter into before actually starting this new approach. This level of consultation would have begun in 2019 before we actually on the ground started instituting some of these changes.
Yes.
So you're talking about the integrative vegetation approach. That's what you're talking about.
Yes, the integrated vegetation management, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what interests me is that if you look at the JPS license, you will see that they do have some obligations with regards to treatment of the environment and so on. But there are times when you see those obligations in public documents, but you don't actually get an insight into the steps that are taken at a practical level to give meaning to them. And this is very good information. And I'm pleased that that level of responsibility is being exercised by JPS as a company, and that NEPA is stepping up. Because, the shade trees and the vegetation in the wild are the source of
important part of the water cycle.
Water, but honey. I do use a lot of honey.
The honey too. So when
the propagation of plants and so on.
No, it's true.
When you affect what the bees are picking up and what it's a major thing.
Right, and there is the consideration of what happens if there are heavy rains in terms of land slippage, etc., because the trees are an important part of preventing that as much as possible. So those things are taken into account.
So it's good to hear it, because I must tell you, you've just given NEPA a shot in the arm. They were ailing under the whole fish kill business. They were not looking so good. What you have said here is a good boost, certainly in my books, that they are working in that way with JPS. All right, we're coming to the end of the segment.
Just one question, sir.
Sure.
So you do a lot of consultation. What normally is the response of communities? Like you go into a community, you say we're doing this integrative vegetation management approach, and you're having a consultation with communities, many to be farming communities, I'm assuming, to say we're going to have to cut through because what is happening. What's the response? Is it favorable, unfavorable? What is the approach? I'm assuming you have done that before in your new...
Right. As I mentioned, the consultation regarding... all right. So what happens with vegetation management work is we will determine in a particular community if what particular work is necessary. So if maintenance outage is needed, if trees will need to be removed, if the work will also include other infrastructure work on the lines or poles, etc. As a part of that assessment, if it's determined that vegetation management work is done, it's not necessarily the case that there will be a meeting beforehand with the community, etc.
Okay.
What we found is when we go into the communities to do the work, depending on where the community is located and depending on the number of properties that may be affected, it may be met with some amount of resistance from a few persons, especially when it does impact fruit trees, as well as it may be a simple situation where persons may be more understanding. And when you think of the size of the community, it may not be the majority of persons that will be impacted by this, because it depends on where the lines would be in relation to your property. So lines that run in the back at the backyard, maybe properties that are more affected, etc. So it depends on the makeup of the community. If it is the work will affect a relatively large number of persons, there is some amount of consultation that's had beforehand. That's I said, it's not in every case, but we have had that. We have had community meetings where persons have expressed some amount of displeasure. It may be with something as, and I may say simple, but it's not simple to everyone, as when you're actually doing the maintenance outage, why in the weekday and not the weekend, etc. But it is mixed. It depends on the specific location. But once it is we explain and we show the relationship between the tree contact and outages and possible safety concerns, you have a number of persons that will become more understanding at that point.
Okay, all right, that's good. So, because we often speak here about consensus and people understanding and so on. So that's great to see that you employ all the measures, NEPA is involved, and you're doing what is right according to the script for everybody. Yeah.
All right.
Right, and I do want to stress, though, the importance of customers just remembering about their plants and trees on their property, because it's easy to just think it's a JPS problem, but that aspect is important, and it prevents intervention from us at all when it comes on to the plants on your property.
Talking about prevention better than curing when you have to cut down
Very
people
true.
them happy tree. All right, so. Okay, well, thank you very much. It has been informative and revealing in regards to the work that you undertake to ensure that you're not just willy-nilly cutting down people's trees, but you are doing what is necessary in order to ensure that we have continuous power supply.
Right.
Well, before you go, I wanted you to just, if you're able to, identify some areas that are of great concern, so that if listeners are familiar with or live in those areas, they can keep an eye out. Are there areas in Kingston or in the island where you generally see a lot of troublesome activity, if I could put it that way, or where you have challenges, whether it is gaining access or whatever it might be? We would like to be of assistance as a voice, just to remind persons of the obligations and to engage the citizens in playing a part in making sure that we have the best result, should we have a hurricane. Are there some areas that we're concerned about?
I won't be naming or pinpointing specific ones, but I'll give descriptions.
Yes.
So there are some communities, and I'll use Kingston, for example, where the majority of the yards have mango trees. And the mango trees are planted pretty close to the boundaries. So in a number of instances, it will be close to the line. And they will grow, and mango and other fruit trees, and they'll grow pretty close to the lines, and this will be the majority of the yards or houses. There's also a difficulty that we'll have in terms of getting onto the property, whether it be to address this or for simple meter reading, if there needs to be an assessment or something. It's not for example. And dogs would be a factor where that's concerned. So what I want to say is, I know it's an important part of your property to have plants. The beautification of it is important, but it's important that you think of what plants you have where. Mango trees may not be the best thing for you to plant, in a way that it may grow to come close to 9. So that's another thing. And the second thing would be properties that have power lines running in the backyard. And in a number of instances, people say, why JPS put it there in the first place. In a number of instances, it would be how it would have been developed.
Right.
Sometimes the developer would have made this determination, and now we
You're stuck
have this
with it.
setup that's no longer ideal.
Yes.
So you can just, if you're hearing as a customer, you can just walk out in your yard
And
whenever you
look
have the
out,
time
yes.
and look to see what trees do I already have, where are the power lines in relation to them, and do I need to do something about it? Do I need to engage a contractor? I can probably do it myself to do some trimming.
To trim it back. Yes.
Yeah, or if you haven't started yet, you can just bear this in mind as you move forward.
And you know, to just complete what you're saying, remember that if the power goes down for your neighbor, it will go down for you. So if you see it going on in your neighbor's yard, you just know that
neighbor,
it
yeah,
is
the
likely
neighbor.
to affect more than one household. And so the citizens associations and so on can put it on their agenda to talk about it and play a role in making sure it works for the community. Well,
Right.
Then the neighbor going to JP's
yes.
got to fix
Thank you
And
so
the
much,
trees.
Shamar.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes,
All right,
you
you
too,
too,
my
Shamar.
friend. Take
Good.
care.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. And we're right up on the 9 o'clock break. Well, welcome back to the Morning Connection. And we have online now the guest of the morning. Well, that would mean the other guests probably. We're not the guest of the morning,
Guest
but we're
of the
very
week.
excited to
Guest of
have
the week.
the guest of the week. Yes, let's make him the
We're
guest of the week.
celebrating Garvey and his thing all of this week. And
Yeah.
Mr. Dawson had led that effort to highlight Mr. Garvey, Marcus Messiah Garvey.
Well, let's welcome to the program Mr. Michael Dawson. Michael, can you hear us? Hello?
Hello, Dr. Protector.
Ah,
Good morning.
good morning.
Sir. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's Gary Week.
Welcome to the program. And it's only been 135 years since his birth. So the celebration, you know, we're going to be celebrating. I predict that Jamaicans will only celebrate his birth with greater and greater intensity, passion, and interest as time goes by. That is my
Yes,
prediction.
indeed. I think you're becoming a prophet from what I'm seeing.
All right. So tell us first, just give me the thinking behind making it a week. It was not normally done at that level.
There's so much to Dr. Marcus. Science, business, arts, music, of course, Black Pride, mentorship. So there's just so much about him that we felt there was just not enough time in one day to celebrate all aspects of him. So that's in a nutshell of why we did it.
And when you say we, just define now who's at the heart of the
Okay.
planning.
Okay, well, this individual by myself, and I approached Dr. Garvey, Dr. Julius Garvey, Marcus Garvey's only surviving son, who I'm co-managing partner of the Garvey International Group with Dr. Garvey, as we seek to create enterprises as his father dictated under the Garvey brand. So we have a range of products and business lines that we're doing globally, in fact, under the Garvey brand. So that was the Garvey Group, and we felt that this was necessary to have a whole week. And the way here in Jamaica, it's important that we set up for Garvey TV, which is broadcast across the globe, particularly on the continent. And this feature, this particular one, this inaugural one, has a special focus with the Brazilians. Some may not know that there were 100 million Afro-Brazilians just in South America there. And so it was important strategically that we work with the Brazilians in the inaugural Garvey Week.
Well, that was interesting information that I gleaned when I attended at your meet and greet on Monday. Brazil has over 200 million people, and to hear that just about half of them are black was an important bit of information, because Brazil is a powerhouse, emerging and getting stronger. Yeah, so if we can tap into both Brazil and the African Union, we would rule the world. How
Exactly.
All right. The question I want to ask you, because you spoke about the Garvey brand, and you spoke about, Dr. Julius Garvey's involvement as you are co-partnering with him. How does that differ from what it is that the UNIA does or is positioned to do? Because I must tell you, we've been saying here that we've not been feeling the UNIA. So I'm actually very pleased to hear that there is a separate, more vibrant group or team that works on Brand Garvey.
But I'm biased here. Stephen is a campionite, who's the president of UNIA. Went to school together. So, but what I find is that there are so many initiatives that's going on.
Yes.
Under Pan-Africanism, Garveyism. So one of our goals is to create some unified energy there, that we may have different areas. There's also a major FMY, who's in Marcus Garvey in schools. That's another angle. So what we're doing is try to see what are best practices, what are strengths in this group, and we each take, for Garvey group, Dr. Garvey is leading this true Pan-Africanist agenda, because as you quite rightly say, there's 1.2, 1.3 billion just on the continent, and then you figure places like Brazil, and we tend to focus, I speak the Jamaican experience here, of taking a slice of a 30 million Afro market in the United States and smaller aftermarkets in what we call the West. And often for Grenada Energies to look at the 1.3, 1.4 billion market, that absolutely loves you. You know, that you don't have to sell yourself in Southern Africa, in Western Africa.
You belong.
So we keep fighting to this place when you're welcome with open arms in other places. So, you know, we want to shift that focus to where we're most welcome.
Yeah, so that's a tremendous statement.
So, Mr. Dawson, what I hear you speaking of is focus on South-South trade, which is even wider and has not been tapped into as yet. That's what you're speaking about.
Not at all. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think our minds coming out of colonialism have been trained that we still erroneously call the United Kingdom the motherland. So I think it's blasphemous for us. But, you know, from an economic point of view, not even economic, you know, but also for visiting. I mean, you know, when you drive on the highways in Namibia and you look at the safaris on one side and the gold mines on the other, and you're in the city. You know, and when you're in South Africa, just 10 minutes from Tambo Airport, and you look, you know, I'm not exaggerated. You feel like you're in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we were in South Africa a few weeks ago, producer husband and I, and we have fresh memories of exactly what you're talking about. Going into Soweto and the vibrancy and the food, because we went to a local restaurant, and it really, you can immediately feel and taste the synchronicity between who we are, what we are, and what is happening there. And this was in South Africa, which I still think of, you know.
It's funny you say that, because I know us Jamaicans are supposed to be from West Africa. I mean, we are, but yes, when I'm in Southern Africa, I feel a sense of, you know, I will tell you that's where my home will be. Yes, that's where my home will be.
Well, you know something. I will send you something, because we were invited to participate in something there. One of the things we came away with was an initiative to participate in a cultural exchange program that would see people coming here at least 3 times a year. We're going there and they're coming here, because you know what it is to travel. Are you working yourself on any initiatives to make it easier for Jamaicans or people from the diaspora to travel to Africa? When we went there, and I'm sure it's the same for many persons, we went down to Trinidad. We took KLM to Amsterdam, and then we went to Johannesburg, and it took us about 2 full days to do all of that, because we had to overnight in Trinidad. And coming back, it was even worse, because the flight from Trinidad doesn't move every day. So what are you working on in that direction?
Well, we just signed, Dr. Gabby just signed this week a cooperative agreement with SOAD.
Oh, this is the sixth.
New Black Star Line.
Oh.
So, yes.
No, man, you have to say that again.
Say that again.
Dr. Gabby signed.
Dr. Gabby signed with the Sixth Region, State of African Diaspora.
Yes.
A cooperative agreement where there'll be the new Black Star Liner. And we definitely, it's scheduled to be an idea, but we'll definitely be coming to Jamaica. And then the other one that Dr. Gary has been working on is to perhaps use Word of Field as a place that we can work to have the air travel. Prior to the pandemic, we had a deal with Ethiopian Airlines to do a direct flight from Kingston to Addis, where we were taking the bust of Marcus Garvey. We, at the Roaring Group, we started a bust of His Excellency.
Yes.
It's an African Union, because we think his place is rightfully there.
Okay. Interesting.
So there's a lot more.
So we've been working with different initiatives.
Okay.
So there's a lot more to come on that front, both in terms of just the promotion of it, but also the cultural significance of our claiming our place on both sides of the continent, put it that way.
Yeah, and we continue to work. You know, our company we're in, I make fun of its name. I told Dr. Marcus Garvey look for me in the Roman speech.
Yes.
So my background is in technology. I feel that Jamaica has a colonial technology thinking where us Jamaicans are not allowed to develop and create some different things, which I'm going to right now, but that's my belief. And
that belief.
due to that, our companies, quote unquote, unceremoniously shut down. And we've been in litigation fighting for our company, and we think we will get it. 13 years later, we're still fighting. And then during that period, I listened to Marcus Garvey's speech coming the world with. And at that point, I decided that perhaps the mistake we did is as a guy at Pan African company, we only focus on telecom. So this time we focus on everything. So that's how we end up in technology. We still with the publishing. We have Mecca, House of Dancer. We publish Rice Carter book. We publish Twins of Twins. We now produce Oliver Samuels plays, and we tour with him. We have our own beverages, Strictly Roots, water is ours, slow and rum is ours. And we're going to start our own. We've been approved Jamquila, which is Jamaica's answer to tequila. So we take this business of self-reliance seriously.
Let me prophesy for you again, Mr. Dawson, and I'm going to borrow from Marcus Garvey's whirlwind speech as well, when he said he spoke about whether the Negro has a soul. Your death, and when I see you later, you will realize that we have adjoining grave plots. Your death has given rise to the birth of so much more, that I celebrate your death and I congratulate you for that sacrificial dying. Because one of the things that Marcus Garvey recognized when he said, in death, I will be a terror. You don't want to kill me. There are some people you don't want to kill. You want to make them live for as long as possible, because they're even worse in death. And I can tell that you're one of them. So,
we have to. I mean, on a very serious note, we're very serious that we're going to build our nation or build our race. We have to own our own technology.
Absolutely.
So any leadership that allows their technology to be owned by others, then as Marcus said, they're willing to enslave you. So until our technology is liberated here, so we cannot in 2022 not have a primarily own Jamaican own telecom technology company, and that's the basis of everything. And that's why we had to unfortunately set up Garvey TV instead, because quite frankly, as a black man, the complexion I have, it's easy for me to do business outside of Jamaica, in this technology space and in Jamaica. So most of the success that we've had, now that we've created that, we want to come back to Jamaica and allow other younger people that look like me to step in the technology space. No disrespect to working in a call center and that, but also to own some of these call centers.
Of course.
I keep seeing this ownership as others. So we're very strong in our agenda, and I think after this interview, many people ask me, why don't I speak out in Jamaica? I'm not available, because they probably, won't invite me back, because I'm very steadfast in my belief of it. And
you must know that you're speaking to two persons who will have a lot more time for you. We made an effort to kind of engage with you this morning, because we wanted to let our listeners, who are all staunch Garveyites, we want our listeners to hear what is happening for the week, but also just the little thumbnail sketch you've given of your experience. Some of them were maybe tired of hearing about mine, which is not dissimilar to yours. Our company, Carousel, I'm wearing the shirt today because I'm coming to speak to you at your in your panel discussion. It is the graveyard of black businesses in Jamaica is littered with bodies such as ours, but I don't think they understand that the prophet Ezekiel asked, can these dry bones live? What's the question? Dry bones. Surely they can.
Even before we go there, some of the times something has to die, except a corn of wheat falls to the ground.
A grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies. Yes.
You cannot have real life. So we speak about resurrection and the power that is released when you are resurrected. Can't stop you. So that's what we're looking forward to, in terms of speaking that over your business and what is about to happen, sir.
All right.
And that's what we want today. That's what we want today. We want persons of like thinking to come and discuss real business.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be ashamed of doing that business. We need to do Pan-African business. I mean, Brazil alone has about 100 million, Nigeria 200 million.
Yeah.
That makes our marketplace 100 times what it is. We have to. It's not that we may or we should.
Yeah, we don't have a choice. We have to.
We have a choice.
Yeah.
If you're serious about black business, we invite you to join. If it means to be there at Mecca today at 10 Dr. Garvey will be there. And, it's small, intimate, because we want people who are real about this. And I'm not afraid of the consequences of saying I'm for black business.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing. It's a workshop, it's a discussion, and we're going to work together. We're going to have that one love, that unity that Daddy Marcus asked us for. And we invite all to come down and do it. And I really appreciate the time. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to congratulate you on the remarkable effort you have made. I realized that you didn't do it for fun. You did it because you must. And you have done it for us, for all of us, all Jamaicans who need to participate in it, whether we know that it is going on or not. So thank you very much and for taking time out, because this is a big day. I got to ask you, though, I'm not missing them. In fact, I think one of the best things about what you're doing is that we're not tripping over government types. But how do you feel about the support and the level of participation from the leaders of Jamaica? Are you feeling it?
No, I'm not, but I think we have to keep doing the work.
Absolutely.
We have to keep doing the work.
Enough said.
We have to keep doing the work. I just say one thing. Stephen Golden said to me last night, right? It's the biggest turnout I've seen for Garvey Reef Lane of politicians and people. So hopefully, the work that we're doing is not in vain. That the Marcus said, we shall do it. And I every time I get discouraged, because it's easy to be discouraged in Jamaica when you get back in business, but we shall do it. And I just keep saying that. I hear his voice, we shall do it.
Yeah. Well, we're giving you some company and some strength. And it's just wonderful to know that right out there on the battlefield are many of us of like minds, and we're committed to doing it. Do you have to go now? We have 6 minutes, but if you have to go, and I know you probably must go.
Dr. Guy, being a cardio surgeon, when it's time, it's time. I don't want him to have his name.
Yes. All right, my friend. I'll see you.
Well, let's talk more at a talk.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. All right.
I'm so grateful for you for having me. Take care.
Yes,
right,
thank you. That was a breath of fresh air. Wow. Wake up the revolutionary in me. And in you too, Pastor?
Yeah,
I know the rebel is still...
It never died. It never died.
Never died. In fact, the truth is, you have joined the fraternity of the greatest. It's a 2,000-odd-year-old rebel group.
Yeah, from a very, very long time.
Very long time.
But I'm just reflecting on my brother and what he believed, and some of the things he fought for. He was ridiculed, laughed when it wasn't
in
vogue to do
vogue.
it. Yes, he did it, and I just need to find some of his writings, because he spoke a lot to it. His poetry.
Well, he taught you, and one of the things to remember is that whether you find the writing or not, you carry the seed of it in your spirit, because much of you, I don't think we ever have one of these conversations and you don't mention your big brother.
No, because that's what he did, and experience and
so
in terms of being,
he's living on in his little brother. He's living on. You're doing him proud. I'm happy that you're able to do so. There are some things that when I hear myself speaking, I just feel like I feel the spirit of my dad sometimes, and I definitely channel the spirit of my mother. Half the time I can feel the two of them in me as I represent from a position. My father was one who, he never believed in paying rent. He felt man must own something. Do not pay rent. By the time I was 23 years old, I had my first apartment.
Okay.
It just never, when I was buying my first apartment, in fact, I bought the apartment that I lived in as a student, and for all the time I lived in it, I felt like, my father said, don't pay rent. Yeah, I felt as if, I was doing something wrong. So I've always believed in the ownership of land, and everybody should have the opportunity to own land. Well, I worked and got mine. But if you're not in that position, because not everybody would be in that position, if you're not in that position, then by God, the land that is sitting there, underutilized and being given away to friend and company, should be yours. In fact, it is yours. You just need to get your name on it. We're going to try and take a few calls. This is the number to call, 876-361-6583. 876-361-6583. If you're able to participate in the morning's discussions, give us a call. We just had Michael Dawson on air with us, and oh my, I can't wait to have a conversation with him again so that you can all learn about what what he's doing. And our ladies from the zone are now in the zone. I'm gonna have to hear about their great adventure traveling to Ligani Club this morning.
An adventure?
Yeah, must have been an adventure, man, because here they are. So we're gonna be talking to these two beautiful ladies. Let me get the name right. Marlene Lawrence Grant and Maureen Mullings Nelson. They are podcasters. And I'm going to tell you something, they're not teenagers. So the first thing I applaud is that these two mature women who are doctoral candidates, I think both of them are on the path to getting their PhD, and they have decided to do a podcast in which they seek to add value, to educate Jamaicans on a variety of matters. That they talk about anything that you might need to discuss with your child as they are learning and growing up. As a parent, it's good for you. If you're a child with questions, it's good for you too. So their audience is wide and varied. Welcome both of you.
Thank you.
All right, so you can tell their partners. All right, I'm just gonna give you a chance to say your names, and then we're gonna take the break. So who's going first?
I'll go first. All right. So good morning, everyone. I am Marlene Lawrence Grant.
And I'm Maureen Mullins Nelson.
All right. So when you come back, you'll hear more.
Maureen.
Yeah.
Squared. Oh, that is
yes.
money squared. All of them things.
But can I tell you the other thing too? So Marlene's surname is of course Lawrence, which is the producer, my name, and Maureen, my big sister's name is Maureen, spelled differently. But I thought, look at that. The two ladies, put the names together and you get one person out of my family.
You get money.
Yeah, and of course, this is Pastor Percival Palmer, who is the other half of the show. So together we're gonna engage with you, and you can share a little bit about what you're doing. Time for the break. 9:30. We take a station break, and then we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're in the final segment of the show, and we are so pleased to have the two ladies here. You heard their name. It's Marlene and Maureen,
Yes.
M&M. And you wouldn't believe the things we've been discovering at the table here because, but you know, it's really out of many one family, you know. Like yesterday, we had that interesting debate going back and forth whether it was from the one to the many or from the many to the one. But we know prophetically that we must move from many back to one. It may have started with one and became many, but then it has to go back to one because it is the at one meant that brings us into blessings and reconciliation. So, all right, who's going to go first? Because you have different areas of focus and discipline. One is technology and one is leadership. And right now, today, technology is leading.
Should
it be age before beauty?
But then there's so much beauty that she just planned to win on the seat stage. Age and beauty. All right, let's go with the leader.
Well, so as I would have said, I'm Maureen Mullins Nelson, and I serve as a placement officer at the Michael, and leadership is always in my heart. I would have also served as a vice principal for a number of years in the secondary system, and so I know from experience and from research and just living in this space that it takes great leadership to shift an organization and to take an organization, where you want it to be. This morning I had a very interesting conversation with a friend who was saying to me, speaking about a particular situation and how leadership would have failed in that regard, and how we see leadership failing
all over the place.
All over the place. And so for me, leadership is crucial. Yes, and I take it seriously.
So your contribution to the podcast is to drive home what in terms of leadership?
Well, it's not only to drive home leadership, because the podcast really looks at everything that has to do with education. So we invite school leaders. We aim to always have a school leader in to talk about anything. So if we're going to talk about behavior management, we get a school leader in to hear the leadership perspective.
Yes.
If we're talking about instructional leadership, or if we're talking about, say, even a matter of sex education in schools, or right now we are trying to look at the whole matter of suicide, because next month is World Suicide Prevention Day, and so we want to talk to a leader. So that's where I come in. Anything we look at, we get a leader in to talk to the leader.
Dr. Donovan Thomas was like that with Choose Life.
Definitely, he's a person that we have been having a conversation with him.
But I got somewhat intrigued on the subject of leadership, because we're seeing the concept of leadership being reflected now in how one takes control of one's own life and body and emotions and so on. So the idea that you can be a leader in your own life, forget about getting people to follow you. Just get your thoughts, and I would like to say, bring every thought under submission to the will of God, to take control of your own situation, emotions, and so on. I imagine that is a big part of how you communicate.
Because if you can't control your thoughts, if you can't be disciplined to say, okay, for example, for me as a leader, there's a to-do list. How do I stick to this to-do list? Yes, there will be some leeways and some flexibility, right? But how do I take control of my thought? How do I make a list and stick with it? How do I control my emotions as a leader? Because I cannot be a leader that I am out of control and all over.
Everybody can provoke you and draw you out.
Provoke you, can pull you. Or not only that, sometimes as a leader, everybody will have their opinion. But how do I listen to all the different opinions?
And then
and yes, put it together and make a decision for the greater good. And so it starts with me, my centeredness and my belief system in God. And how do I allow even that to direct me and how I work with persons? So that's very key.
Yes. I thought I would pull that out, because many times when we're talking about leadership, we focus on the man at the front that others follow, forgetting that leadership of your own life and situation is where it begins. And you will not have a good leader of a country or anything else unless that person is in control and is exhibiting leadership and ownership of their own life and circumstance. Teaching the kids that at the earliest possible age is real important.
Very important. And because we had one of the podcasts, we looked at principalship, private citizen or public figure.
Yes.
And so in you being a private public it's me taking control of what I put out there in social media. how I
Girl, you're
manage
talking about
myself in
integrity.
this space and my
It's integrity, because bringing the private and the public into one unified,
It's important.
cohesive
And a lot of
self is
creators have
important.
fallen because the private wasn't adding up to what was happening.
There was a lack
Public,
of integrity.
yeah, so a lot of people have been-
Have fallen on that. All right. Well, she kind of blazed the track. Let me hear now. My money is on technology, you know, because I love technology.
That's fine. So I am Marlene Lawrence Grant. My specialization is really teacher education and development with a passion and core for educational technology. And thus, in the space of the podcast, I come in two folds. I come as a digital native, and I also come as a teacher educator
What is a
and
digital native for those people who don't know? Can you just-
persons who actually born within the actual time of technology. So once you're within a
Is that
certain
Gen X,
age,
Z? Which one is it?
range.
Are you X or Z?
I am
millennial.
Aye, all right.
millennial.
Yeah, look at us in a millennial. Yeah.
But I must say though that the podcast and my 2 cents to the podcast is to help education, most importantly, all stakeholders within education. And thus we provide from the podcast handle opportunities for teachers to grow and develop, for students to grow and develop, for things that through education we can build society. And our motto, our logo, our brand is improving society one podcast at a time. And because we know education has that big gap or big hold on what happens in society, everything that happens in
Based
the
on
outer
education.
world seems to filter back into education. And thus, if there's a need to change something in society, the first place to walk is the classroom.
Yes, sir. Tell
And
me about
thus,
it.
we together as friends have always had a passion for changing education. We have diverse backgrounds, but when we come together, it's amazing. The ideas that we come up with, the pinky and the brain.
It's a shared brain.
It's
So what
just
are we
the
gonna do
joy.
today?
Yes, that's how we literally operate. And thus we take the podcast in that notion. We want to change, we want to impact lives, we want to make sure that we're not just teaching for the classroom, but we're teaching for the society.
For the life.
And one of the things that we looked at in our recent podcast was we had Rushcam on, and we looked at social media and the influence it has on education and young people. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this to the forefront is what is happening in our society now and the things that influences our children, and how naturally no, a child will spend more time on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok. My son knows most of the TikTok songs that I don't even know myself, because of the fact that this is what is going on. And thus the things that can be filtered through these medium can either change for good or change for bad.
Can be
So
all
let
being
me,
filtered
yeah.
through.
So let me ask you.
You can modify the filtration, because you can put things onto your devices that will cushion what your child watch or what your children look at.
Exposed to.
But sometimes you can't mitigate everything.
So are you seeing the current trends in technology as an enemy or more as an ally?
Both.
Yeah, but you're a friend. You're a frenemy.
Both.
How does
And,
that sound?
No, well, I'm letting her explain, because it does have it's a
good and
two-edged
bad.
sword.
And if you think about the opportunities that technology brings for the classroom, the fact that, for example, the use of Facebook or TikTok could be a way to communicate with your students, could be a way to show them current things. We talk about authentic learning experiences, where if you want an example, let us say I want to show the students about Garveyism, and I might not have the books available. I can go onto YouTube and I can get a video, right? That is a good way. On the other side, I might be watching a video or showing a video to my class, and there's an advertisement that comes up maybe about something that is different, something that maybe within the class context is not good. So the opportunity for greatness is there with the technology, but there's also a limitation, and thus it doesn't take away from the fact that the technology itself in education reaps more benefit than
It does
negatives.
harm. So when you do your podcast, do you focus mostly on the policy issues behind education, or are you looking at practical everyday things that persons can include in their routine that would give them a better output or a better experience?
Well, we focus on practical and policy here and there,
Yes.
because to be honest, you cannot talk about education and not put some policies in place. But when we craft our ideas for our podcast, we look at things that are traditional issues and things that are current. So, for example, classroom behavior management is something that is in education and will stay in education because that is where it is.
As long as there's a classroom.
There's always going to be a management thing, behavior management there,
Yes.
technology, etc. But, for example, the other day we just looked at a podcast that talks about immigration, teacher immigration. That is something that is current. That is something that is going on now, and people want to hear more about it. People want to know what are the reasons, because it is something that many persons don't really understand. They know that teachers are maybe leaving because there's a need for better pay or better working conditions, but some persons don't really have the insight to the classroom. And thus our last episode was to create that opportunity for everyone to really understand why teachers leave.
The stresses of the environment.
the
So what
limitations.
came up as the major talking points on that podcast for you? Because we were just speaking about it this morning in terms of what your teachers, you train teachers. What do you think is the major driving force or the factors? What's happening?
So firstly, there's not just one factor. There
Right,
is
that's
a
many
lot.
factors, right?
One of the maybe top one on the list is salary.
Okay.
And economically, we are struggling as a country. Financially, not many teachers can make it to the end of the month with the salary. It's hard. It's not that we're living beyond our means. It's just that cost for things, food prices, gas prices, clothes, children, all of those things takes a lot of money. And the average teacher who has a house, a car, if they can afford both at the same time, 'cause that's something we spoke about, possibility will be struggling very hard just to have a
Pastor
house and
was
a car.
asking earlier, what's the average salary like for, just can you give us an idea, a range?
I think it's a little over 100,000, and it's below 200,000
Before tax.
Before tax.
Before tax.
But just to add to what Marlene said as well, because for example, within our context here in the Caribbean and in Jamaica, teachers will migrate because of finances. But when you look what's happening across the globe, and we did touch on that on the podcast, that persons are, look at North America, the
Very
pandemic,
good class.
they are leaving the classroom in droves.
Yes.
Because guess what? The pandemic opened an opportunity. The pandemic said to educators that, guess what? I am at home, and while I'm teaching in my Google Classroom or whatever LMS they use, I am also earning, and I'm learning different ways to earn.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the pandemic, I look and I said, wow, my reality is I can survive without doing this. Because it did open.
And it has been so for every profession.
For every profession. I
People
cannot
began
do
to
this,
learn
yes.
the value of time.
Time and
Time
things,
took
yes.
on a different value. I want us to take at least one phone call to test the system. So let me repeat the number so someone can call us. It's 876-361-6583. It's not our usual numbers, so you have to be really careful to get the number right. If someone wants to have a conversation, a question for either of these two ladies or for Pastor Percival, please take the opportunity now, make the call. We only have like 12 minutes left
What were the other
on the
factors that
show.
came out?
All right, so the other factors is school culture and climate. And the truth is, just like any other industry, you have working conditions that maybe are not conducive. And one of the things about education and teachers leaving colleges into the field, we leave with a zing, motivated, happy to go in. And the career path, you stay on that notion for maybe 1 to 3 years, 4 years, give and take.
Feeling like you
She
can
says 1.5, but I'm using my personal experience. 3 years, I'm still bubbling. I'm still ready to
teach.
to teach.
I can have
But
impact.
the environment can suck that from you.
Oh, tell me about that.
And thus,
School
So is
administration
this
is a
the
part
physical
of it.
administration is a
environment?
part of it, but
Yes.
it's not the entire thing. Because it could be student behavior.
Yeah.
Student behaviors,
It could be staff behavior. It could be parental support. It could just be policies that are in place because
Leadership.
it could be leadership. It could be anything.
Is
as
it ever the
relates-
physical environment?
Sometimes.
Sometimes
Sometimes.
it is.
Yeah.
Some of the schools, them really.
Sometimes.
Some schools depends on where it is located, especially if you're in an area that gang-related activities affect the school. Personally, it might be something for you to say, I don't want to be here, I don't feel safe.
Right.
So persons can leave for different reasons. apart from just salary and culture and behavior, you also have
Teacher burnout.
Teacher burnout.
Just tired of it.
And that is something that doesn't matter how long you have been in the system, your
When it hits, it
ability
hits.
to keep up can be different.
Yeah.
So Maureen could be in for how many years you're in teaching?
40.
30.
30.
40.
Pastor says 40.
Forever.
She's been in it forever. And I'm doing around 13, 14 years in teaching. And thus, I could have experienced burnout long before she, because depends on what motivates her.
Right.
And motivation might be different.
And yeah.
But the burnout is so crucial, because I think, as I say, within the context of Jamaica and across the globe, we are seeing this burnout. And teaching online is extremely difficult.
Actually,
Oh, yes.
I mean to tell you.
Difficult, and you don't get a break, because the planning that you must go in place. It's, and I think too, when I listen
It's
to the
almost
different,
continuous.
discussions,
Yes.
the person said, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
So it's very demanding. And
Can't
how
do
has
that.
the podcast given you sort of a new shot in the arm, a new lease on life? Because using your experiences to fuel the podcast, that's like your years of experience and yours, that's what you're drawing from
That
to be
generation
able
of
to.
teachers.
Yes, because
Yeah.
it gives us a new buzz, a new energy.
Yes.
Because it's something, long before the podcast, we're always having this discussion. What are we going to do? Hence we call ourselves Pinky and the Brain. So for me,
I don't want
being
to ask who think you know.
no, we're saying
Mix the roles as they come along.
For me, being in education so long, it is giving me a new energy, a new boost.
Okay.
Right. And pulling from her as a younger person, both in age and experience, I think it's a good synergy. And so
Amen.
it is taking education. And look here, we put education to the back burner. We blame it when we want to, and we want to take it to the forefront.
Come on.
We want to take it to the forefront.
You never stop learning.
Yes.
I mean, my sitting here with you is a learning experience for me
learning.
as well. And I hope that you are blessed by the conversation.
Oh, yes.
We're happy to, share the platform that we have with you.
From
So
time to time.
at any time, yes, that you feel like you want to say something
Great.
to a
Yes,
live
yes,
audience.
yes. Excellent.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Right. So how has it been? I mean, are you getting a great take up with your podcast? Are you Miss Technology lady?
I
You're
love
watching
it.
the numbers.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I say this because before teaching, I've always wanted to become a journalist. I've always
Yes.
wanted to be on the radio or the TV.
Well, here you are.
It has always, I'm living the dream. I can tell you on Tuesday it was when I don't remember what you call the microphone, the one that they put in your back.
Yeah.
And I had a moment, and I was telling Maureen, I had a moment. And this for me outweighs master's, PhD degree, because that is something that is coming from inside. And I said to myself,
Tears came.
that
Ooh.
you know, so me I go left teaching and go journalism. So when I spoke with you, I said, this is my calling, because I've always wanted to be in the space. So being with Maureen, being in the space, doing the podcast, I'm happy.
Excited.
This is something that, and I said this because we are teachers that come from passion and core. So in our class, we are not just about the transaction, we're about changing lives.
Transformation.
And
Yeah,
transformation,
change
thank
agents,
you.
yes.
And taking that into the podcast, it's not just 20 students or 30 students now. This is Jamaica, this is Caribbean,
Yes,
this is
yeah.
international,
Yeah.
this is global.
It's Africa.
It's-
when you get
What numbers
there.
you looking like in terms of your podcast take up on a weekly basis?
By the way, first let them tell you how new the podcast is before
it's
you.
about, we started around June, June.
Yes,
We're new,
so
June,
it's
so we're
new.
new.
It's new.
So one of the things that we love about the Jamaica International Podcast Network, I want to use the opportunity to big up Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Auntie Rosie, everybody on the team that helps us to make this a reality. And one of the things about using the Jamaica International Podcast platform is that we are not placed into a box as compared to maybe YouTube or any other platforms where, for example, if there's a community violation, then our video is struck
It's shut
down or we
down,
lose
right.
money. We're in a space where the platform is owned by a Jamaican-born person and our content is all Caribbean. So we rely on the support of the team from the Jamaica International Podcast Network to market. We do our own marketing as well because we're here, and we also feed from what they do. And we must say that they have given us great support. We have to put that out there. Wonderful support to have the podcast out there. The editing, the recording, all of that is taken care of by them.
Wow.
So
that is
we just go in and put in the content.
Just go in and do your thing. And
Yes.
We just go in and put in the content.
Come on, I'm gonna get Mr. Dawson to come back and
Remember, we spoke
do a
about
little bit more
culture
about
and
it.
wealth. And
Well, that's why I invited them, you know. Aside from Marlene having her wish to be on air, and, you know, we make wishes come true.
Yes.
There was also the fact that we're doing a series about the wealth of culture and the culture of wealth.
Yeah.
I expect you to very soon learn the culture of wealth as your podcast takes you. Excellent. But there's also tremendous wealth to be made from cultural expression, and what you're doing is right up there.
Yes.
I mean, you know, very soon I expect to be seeing you in international places. So I congratulate you on your effort. We have 4 minutes to go. You wouldn't believe it's almost half an hour since you've been sitting here. Thank you very much for sharing your world with us. The podcast is gone. Tell us what it name and how people can find it.
Well, the name of the podcast is the Zone Podcast, and you can find us on JA Online TV or Jamaica International Podcast, and you can also find us on Spotify.
Well, what else can I say? Well, apparently I can't say thank you all.
They're royal.
Yes, but may I just thank the people and get off the air, because our weekend starts in a few minutes. This is, we start our weekend on Thursdays because we're not on air on Friday. So you caught us in the nick of time. Thank you all to those back in the studio who have made this possible, and to the team here, Mr. Producer and Miss Eden. God bless you, Ligani Club. Thank you for hosting us, and all the people who may be hearing us at breakfast. Thank you for being patient with us. JD's Urban Pub. I don't know what we're having for breakfast this morning, but I'm sure it will be delicious. This is the place to be if you're in the New Kingston area and you want a nice place where you can park in luxurious comfort, big parking lot, and have a wonderful Jamaican lunch. JD's Urban Pub will take care of you. And the Ligani Club, this weekend at the Ligani Club, I think an international squash tournament begins. CASA, Caribbean Area Squash Association. I just let you know that I have a CASA.
She can play.
Yeah, I have a CASA trophy at home.
Husband plays.
So goodbye to you all. Have a great weekend, everyone.